There was a lot of snow that fell yesterday in the system. Things are tapering off today. And the city of Winnipeg certainly looking pretty good this morning. Portage Avenue really just wet rather than snow covered. The morning show on CBC is on until 8:37. Good morning to Abby Adeyemi, our senior tech who covers the weather on the show. Good morning to Darren Marash, who is our producer of our YouTube stream. If you're watching us there, say hello. And good morning to Mr. Corey Funk, who you'll hear covering your commute today on air. Corey's also directing Information Radio today. Let's go to Heather Wells. She's here with developing headlines and news from our province. Hi, Heather.
Good morning. And beyond our province, my phone at 4 o'clock this morning started buzzing with an alert from the BBC about a story we'll be hearing a lot of this morning. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the former prince, has been arrested, accused of misconduct while in public office. So we'll hear the latest on that coming up on World Report. Here at home, friends and family of an 18-year-old Winnipeg woman are grieving and shaken after hearing she was murdered over the weekend. Police say Avante Hartley was found dead in a home on Yonge Street Saturday morning. Her close friend, Michelle Abraham, says Hartley would light up a room and was loved by many. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather's right. That story just developing before we got on the air here. So we'll hear more on World Report in a moment to that international story. Back to local. After 8 o'clock today on the show, more than 1,500 weapons were detected using AI weapon scanners over at Winnipeg's Health Sciences Centre. This over an 8-month period last year, according to the province. We're going to get some reaction from the Manitoba Nurses Union today.
On cue.
I'm Garvey Bailey, in for Tom Power.
Nothing more beautiful than a hockey rink.
Best known for The Kids in the Hall, Dave Foley once thought he was a little too artsy to be a hardcore hockey fan. Not anymore. On his new show, Dave travels across Canada talking with everyday people and a few celebrities about their love of the game.
Cue. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Marcia Young. A major development in the ongoing Jeffrey Epstein scandal as King Charles' brother, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, has been arrested. Police in the UK took the 66-year-old into custody this morning. My World Report co-host John Northcott joins me now in studio. And John, tell us, what is Andrew accused of?
Marcia, Andrew is now in police custody. He's being held on suspicion of, quote, misconduct in public office, which, if convicted, could carry a life sentence. He had been stripped of his titles, forced from his Windsor Castle home, and was living in disgrace in what's described as a lonely cottage on his brother the King's Sandringham estate. That house, the scene early this morning of a number of police officers believed to be conducting a search. In a statement this morning, Thames Valley Police say they were, quote, assessing reports of misconduct in public office. Royal commentator Ed Wang says the fact that this is happening on Andrew's 66th birthday makes the fall from grace even more striking.
Today is his 66th birthday. Prior to 2020, bells would have been rung from Westminster Abbey. Today would have been a flag day in the United Kingdom, and the flags will be flying and now being arrested for allegations of offense in a public office.
There have been allegations that trade reports were sent to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in 2010. Andrew served for a decade as the UK's Special Representative for International Trade and Investment, and in that role, he would have had access to potentially sensitive British government material that might have proven valuable to others.
What is behind this charge?
Marcia, Andrew has been under suspicion for years for his alleged treatment of young women and for his relationship with the late sex offender and international wheeler dealer Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew has long denied any wrongdoing. Nonetheless, he was stripped of his titles and royal duties by his brother the King. With the ongoing release of the Epstein files, there have been increasing pressure on UK authorities to investigate the former prince's links and activities. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said this.
One of the core principles in our system is that everybody is equal under the law and nobody is above the law. And it is really important that that is applied across the board.
With this arrest of the former prince, it appears that British authorities are now acting.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Marcia.
My World Report co-host John Northcott in studio. The United Nations says the attacks in Sudan's Darfur region bear the hallmarks of genocide. It launched a fact-finding mission to investigate the 18-month siege of the city of El Fasher, and it found protected ethnic groups were cut off from food and water. Mona Rishmawi worked on the UN report. She says the rebel rapid support forces targeted non-Arab communities.
We are talking about mass killings. We are talking about 18 months of siege. We are talking about rampant sexual violence of incredible cruelty. All this basically was targeting two specific ethnic groups, particularly the Zaghawas and the Fur.
She's calling for the international community to protect Sudanese civilians and their rights. Sudan has been gripped by civil war since 2023. At least 40,000 people have been killed in that time, and aid groups insist the numbers are being underreported. U.S. President Donald Trump is convening his Board of Peace for the first time today in Washington. Trump says the group will lead the way to a rebuilt and peaceful Gaza. But allies like Canada are not involved and are skeptical. And so are Palestinians living in Gaza. The CBC's Cameron McIntosh has more from Jerusalem.
Living under a precarious ceasefire, ask Palestinians in this market near Gaza City about the prospects for U.S. President Donald Trump's Board of Peace. Opinions are split. The destruction of Gaza is because of Trump, says Hazin Abu Marah, blaming Trump for not stopping Israel. While others like Mohammed El-Sari say Trump is the only hope.
We're committed to ensuring Gaza is demilitarized, properly governed, and beautifully rebuilt.
Trump introduced the board last month to set a plan for Gaza. About 20 countries, including regional players, have signed on. The rest of the G7, including Canada, have not. Trump says member states are pledging $5 billion towards reconstruction so far. Indonesia is promising troops for a stabilization force. Palestinian technocrats will manage Gaza day to day.
We're going to be very successful in Gaza.
Expected on today's agenda, rebuilding and policing. Challenges are daunting, including Hamas's refusal to disarm. Back in the market, there's uneasiness. The ceasefire can continue, but the suffering is the same, says Anwi Saad, who, like many, fears one occupying force will be replaced by another. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Jerusalem.
South Korea's former president Yoon Suk-yeol has been sentenced to life in prison. The punishment is for his 2024 attempt to impose martial law. A judge today called it a rebellion designed to seize unchecked power. Yoon's lawyer is already slamming the verdict.
Watching what appears to be a collapse of the rule of law today, I question whether we should proceed.
He says Yoon's legal team may appeal the sentence. Prosecutors wanted the death penalty, but the judge says there were no casualties. In BC, a Supreme Court justice is hitting the brakes on a multi-million-dollar settlement involving WestJet. The deal was supposed to end a class action lawsuit over the airline's anti-harassment policies. But the judge says flight attendants were not given enough time to look at the fine print. As Lindsay Duncombe reports, both sides head back to court today.
It was a little vindicating.
Former flight attendant April Harkness came to BC Supreme Court Wednesday, prepared to object to a proposed $4.5 million settlement with her former employer WestJet Airlines. But the hearing didn't get that far. Instead, Justice Jacqueline Hughes raised key questions about language, procedure, and timing. Questions lead plaintiff Mandalena Lewis says she raised with her lawyers before the agreement was reached.
I'm glad that this judge read between the lines quite quickly and realized that that the due process hasn't been served here.
This legal fight has been going on for close to a decade. Lewis alleges WestJet didn't support her after she says she was sexually assaulted by a pilot on a layover in 2010. The class action lawsuit doesn't deal with those allegations. Instead, it argues WestJet breached its contract with flight attendants by failing to implement and maintain an anti-harassment program. WestJet denies the allegations, and they have not been proven in court. There are close to 3,500 flight flight attendants in the class. They worked for the airline between 2014 and 2021. Class members were given 3 days to review the settlement. Justice Hughes called that unorthodox and ordered the lawyers to extend the period an additional 30 days. She asked lawyers to reconsider language on WestJet's release of liability and its promised internal review of policy. Lawyers for WestJet and the plaintiff declined our interview requests. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
A new climate science report has a warning for coffee drinkers. Over the past 5 years, most of the world's coffee-producing regions have experienced almost 2 months of additional extreme heat. Anand Ram has more on what that means for the plant and the people who rely on it.
It takes about 12 minutes for
Chalo Fernandez knows every careful step, from bean to cup. His family has been farming coffee in Colombia for more than 150 years.
My grandfather used to look at the mountains and say, oh, it's going to rain.
But it's all become more unpredictable. From intense rain to extreme heat, he's seen the climate stress up close.
It was a huge drought that we see our trees basically dying from the heat.
A new report from the U.S.-based nonprofit Climate Central crunched temperature data. For the world's major coffee-producing countries, the last 5 years have seen, on average, 57 extra days of extreme heat because of climate change. And that's a problem for plants when it comes to fighting infection. Lily Peck is an evolutionary biologist at UCLA.
You could have more susceptible plant and there's higher kind of virulence pathogen. So that can kind of act as a multiplier effect.
Very excited to pick these beans, but that's not going to happen.
Fernandez showed us whole trees of unripened berries from his southwestern Colombian farm last year. Climate shocks like this, some farmers can adjust to, but not forever.
You can get the heat, as you say, 1 year, 2 years. The third year, you start thinking to disappear. You start pushing your kids to get out of this industry.
Showing the cost of climate change driven by humans burning fossil fuels isn't a future threat. It's happening now. Anand Ram, CBC News, Pickering, Ontario.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your Thursday show, February 19th. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We have light snow falling in downtown Winnipeg. We're the warm spot right now across the province at -5. Thanks for being here. You're on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. And we do have calm in Winnipeg, but of course still a little bit stormy out west and still a snowfall warning that is in effect for parts of Manitoba. So Abby will get into our weather in a moment. But downtown looking pretty wet out there on Portage Ave. This hour on the show, social media on trial. We're going to talk to a technology writer about yesterday's testimony from Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg and what the implications are. So stay tuned for that. Also, ads will be coming soon to some ChatGPT users. Our tech columnist Francis Sims will be here to explain how to navigate a future of advertising in AI. And plenty of news developing across Manitoba as well. Heather Welson here in a moment with our headlines. And here she is now with our local update. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, hundreds of weapons came through the doors of Manitoba's largest hospital over an 8-month period last year. That is according to new data from Shared Health obtained by Radio Canada through a Freedom of Information request. More than 1,500 weapons were detected in the Health Sciences Centre by AI-powered scanners. And of those, more than 300 weapons entered Children's Hospital. We're stopped from entering Children's Hospital. We are going to hear from the head of the Manitoba Nurses Union talking about the concern of nurses about weapons possibly making it into their workplace. And speaking of security, visible security presence at the entrance of the Manitoba Legislative Grounds is gone. No more concrete barriers or security officer in a vehicle at the front. The province making the changes just in the last week. We're going to hear more about that as well in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Let's get to Abby in this weather forecast. Hi, Abby.
Hi, Marcy. We're still dealing with lingering light snow and a steady push of that really cold air as it blows through this province today. We're looking at snowfall warning still in effect for the Westman region region, tracking it into the Parkland and Interlake region. We're looking at additional 2 to 5 centimeters of snow expected, along with what we already have on the ground from yesterday morning overnight. We should be seeing additional 2 to 5 centimeters today, with some blowing snow that will be making travel challenging due to reduced visibility and the accumulation of the snow fall you'll be seeing on the road. So if you're on the number 1, you might be noticing that towards Dauphin this morning. But here in Winnipeg, temperatures around -7, light snow falling in the city. We're aiming for a high of -6 this afternoon, with some winds really coming from the northwest, and it will be picking up. And across the regions down south, we're seeing -13s and -7s. As mentioned, snowfall warning affecting those regions as you travel west, where we're expecting conditions to remain like that all through the day, with highs getting to -10. But up north, we're dealing with that cold. It's still -40. It feels like -42 towards Churchill this morning.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey, Abby mentioned around Dauphin.
Yes, Highway 20 between Dauphin and Winnipegosis. That highway there is closed due to poor conditions. That's Highway 20 between Dauphin and Winnipegosis. Also here in the city, Burroughs in Keewatin, there's a multi-vehicle collision that's knocked down a light standard. The lights are all flashing red. Treat that as a 4-way stop. If you see anything else, 204-788-3093.
Well, let's start the show with a big question. Are social media apps deliberately designed to be addictive? That is one of the things being asked at the heart of a landmark jury trial that is happening right now in the U.S. So yesterday, if you've been following this, the court heard from Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg facing questions about his efforts to get users to spend more time on his platforms and the potential harm that poses for young people. Carmi Levy's here to start the show, technology journalist and analyst. Good morning.
Be with you.
We're always great to have you on. So what stands out from you from what Zuckerberg had to say about this yesterday?
I think what sticks in my mind is how unremarkable his testimony was, that we've literally heard all of this before. He's testified in front of Congress and said the same thing, that there is no correlation between social media and mental health outcomes, that social media is not addictive in the medical sense, that the all that internal evidence that is being shared in the trial, the emails, the meeting transcripts, the text messages that show executives knew that this was addictive. They were actually being tracked. That those were the metrics. Get people addicted to it. It's by design. That he's saying they were mischaracterized, that they were taken out of context. And so it's Mark Zuckerberg being Mark Zuckerberg every time he has an opportunity to step up and take accountability for the downstream impacts of these social media platforms. He refuses to do so. And unfortunately, in this case, yet another example of that.
It's an interesting case also because obviously the goal would be to have people stay on your platform for longer. There's no denying that. That's the goal of any business, frankly, if you have a platform like that. But it's about the addictive quality of them, correct? So
exactly.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, the plaintiff, now a 20-year-old woman identified only as KGM here, says her early social media use caused her to be addicted, made her mental health struggles worse. What will be the big challenge for lawyers representing her then to prove that addictive quality?
It's proving that was the only trigger, that was the only root cause for her subsequent mental health challenges. And we know that mental health is obviously a very complex issue with multiple factors, multiple potential triggers. And so legally to prove that it was only that, she only used social media and nothing else, and that no other factors were in play here, is a very difficult thing to prove anywhere, let alone in court. And so, the lawyers for the technology companies are saying that, they have health records that show she was already in a challenging life situation. She had a difficult childhood, and she was experiencing mental health challenges even before she started using social media at a very young age. And so this is going to be a really early test for the legal community to prove that big tech is responsible in this way. And one way or the other, it will either set the precedent or it won't.
We do have other cases here. TikTok and Snapchat did settle with plaintiffs. Meta and Google have not. What's at stake for them, do you think?
I mean, whether you settled or not, everything is at stake because the very future of the way the industry works, the way it designs its products, the way it markets itself to its users, particularly young users, the engagement levels on the platform that ultimately determine how much revenue they can generate from it. That is ultimately what is at stake here. And so, Snap and TikTok were hoping that while everyone is focused on this initial case, this incredibly precedent-setting case, that they would avoid having all of that dirty laundry, all of those internal documentation examples shared publicly, and they didn't want to look bad in that process. And they're hoping they're still going to be on the stand for all those other cases. The hope is that by the time they get to that point, we will all have moved on to something else, and we won't be paying as much attention to those cases as we are to this one. But in the end, they're still as accountable as everyone else, and they're still facing down the same sort of existential barrel of a gun that both Meta and Google are facing in this initial trial.
You and I have talked about this before. You've compared it to what tobacco and alcohol went through, and then ultimately we have warning labels on packages and such. If Meta wins the court case, is there anything else that might force the company or any of the social media companies we're talking about this morning to change their behavior?
Yeah, the only thing that's going to ever force them to change their ways is legislation. We need tougher laws that impose standards for consumer product design, for removing addictiveness from the fundamental design, and forcing them to go to market in a way that's somewhat more sustainable and balanced and doesn't cause this kind of impact on customers. The automotive industry can't sell a car in Canada without adhering to a very significant list of safety standards, things that have to be on a car before anybody can put it on the road. And so other industries have been subject to this kind of legislation before, which has curbed some of those excesses that we've seen. And I think the technology industry is on the verge of that kind of moment of reckoning as well. And I think many of us would agree it's about 15 to 20 years overdue.
All right, Carmi, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Great being with you. Thanks so much, Marcy.
Carmi Levy is a technology journalist and analyst.
It's time to get loud, Canada, because Milano Cortina 2026 isn't just on your screen. It's happening across the country, and you're invited to join the celebration. CBC is hosting free live events packed with family fun, games, and activities, and full-on Team Canada energy. So get off the couch, come on down, and let's celebrate the games together. To find events near you, visit cbc.ca/experiences.
6:20 a.m. is the time right now. Now, we mentioned that we still have problems here with a yellow level snowfall warning for around Selkirk, Brandon to the west, Dauphin, Minnedosa. Remember, Highway 20 is closed through Dauphin. This is because of the snow that is still going to be coming today in this moving system, and the snow that's already fallen. So as you can imagine, there's issues. That means that we do have some more bus cancellations that have been just announced this morning for different school divisions, and we also have some full school cancellations for divisions as well. So the list to this point, and it's just changing as we speak here, so bear with me. Buses aren't running in Beautiful Plains School Division, but all school is open. All Rolling River School Division buses are canceled. Colony schools, though, are closed. Prairie Rose School Division is canceling buses in all region. Hatteria and Colony school sites are closed. All community schools, though, will remain open. Brandon School Division is operating the rural buses outside the city today. Alexander, Wakelly, and Spring Valley schools will remain closed as they were yesterday. All other schools are open, and buses will run in the city of Brandon at parental discretion where travel is required, please. And then in the DSFM, we have bus cancellations and one school closure. So the school closure is École Saint-Lazare. Bus cancellations are École Robert-Lemoine, École Jules de Plain, École Régionale Notre-Dame-de-Lourdes, École Gilbert-Rossé, École La Source, and École Saint-Jean-Baptiste. Now, I don't believe I yet mentioned Turtle Mountain School Division. Classes and buses are also canceled today. Fort LaBosse School Division, no buses running, and schools are closed as well. And this is all due to road conditions there. And I believe we got that full list out for you now. So that will live this morning as we continue to update this. Thank you, Corey, and thanks to Heather, who are kind of co-updating everything, all of us together. That will live later on our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba. Well, we have a little bit of music for you to get us to Olympic Report. This is Alessia Cara with Slow Motion.
Dreaming about you, sinking into my bed. Dizzy, I see stars all around my head, lifting me up to the moon and back again. You're my lucky penny, yeah, you just make sense. I like to keep my cool, but you're divine. Mother Nature must have taken her time. Come on, take me away, I'll let you drive. You're water and lemon over ice. It's late, but I want to stay. A feeling I can't explain. My ego's melting away. I see everything in slow motion, like a movie scene. All the heavens suddenly open. Hear the angels sing. Heard you say it's me or it's no one. No one gets through to me quite like you do. So I'ma bet it all on you. Now I got you, I'm lighter on my feet. We flow like Badu, just two fish in the sea. I'm missing you before you even leave. Wishing there were more days in a week. It's late, but I want to stay. A feeling I can't explain. My ego's melting away. I see everything in slow motion, like a movie scene. All the heavens suddenly open. Hear the angels sing. Heard you say it's me or it's no one. No one gets through to me quite like you do. So I'ma bet it all on you. Yeah, bet it all on
Alessia Cara with us on CBC with Slow Motion, and things are going to be going slow in rural Manitoba today, especially to the west. I got a couple of things during the tune to add here. So Mountain View School Division, no buses. I'm just looking at Corey to make sure I got this right. No rural buses, Mountain View School Division. That is Dauphin. So Dauphin in the city, everything's on. Outside rural, no buses. So that's what's going on. This is all because of the snow that has fallen and will continue to fall. Thanks for being with us on CBC 89.3 FM. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at the show. And speaking of teams, it's time for Olympic Update.
Good morning, I'm Scott Reguer with your Olympic Games report. It is day 13 in Milano Cortina, where ice is very much in the news. And don't worry, I'm talking about the sporting surface.
Much closer than Canada had anticipated. But for the 8th straight time in Winter Olympic history, Canada will play for gold.
The sound of Canada's women's hockey team edging Switzerland for a spot in today's Olympic final. That will be, of course, against their arch rivals, the U.S. Cassie Campbell-Pascal will be part of the call today, but first she's on a call with me from Italy. Good morning, Cassie.
Good morning.
The storyline of the recent U.S. dominance over Canada is not unlike what it was in 2002 when you played and were part of an historic team that beat the Americans for the gold medal. Can you step back, Cassie, and just tell us about that time, the mindset, and beating the odds?
Our mindset going into the gold medal game is it's one game. We're playing an American dream team, and we can still beat them. You know, that we'll find a way. It's like the Canadian way. And I think it's very similar today in the sense that they have hope. You know, they didn't play well in the round robin. They didn't have Marie-Philippe Poulin. And they have hope going into this game. And sometimes that's all you need.
Beyond Marie-Philippe Poulin, is there a player on this Canadian team that has that leadership that in games like this where they are underdogs can just help propel them that much more?
I think there's a reason why he put Sarah Fillier and Daryl Watts with Poulin. I think those are two players that are young, but are very offensively gifted that really, in my opinion, need to step up in a big way today. And I think as a group, just to play aggressive and be connected, I think is going to be the big thing for them today. And sometimes in these moments, you've got to come out of your comfort zone and do something that maybe isn't expected of you. And it's going to take every single player. And some players won't get a lot of ice time today. And it takes those players to be positive on the bench and to still recognize how important their roles are.
Cassie, I know you're headed off to your next destination, how busy things can be at the Olympics. So I really appreciate your doing this and setting up the gold medal game.
Thanks so much, Scott.
Former national team member and CBC Olympic hockey commentator Cassie Campbell-Pascal. Coverage of the gold medal final will start on CBC Radio at 1 Eastern Time. To the Pebble Dice now.
Final stone of what have been a really good 5 ends for Norway. Making it look easy. They sure are. They get that out, and they are handling Canada well here.
The sound of Norway beating Canada in men's curling in the final preliminary round game for both countries. And wouldn't you know it, they'll reconvene for a semi-final tangle that goes this afternoon. CBC Olympic curling commentator Bruce Rainey says he likes Canada's chances, in part because the Canadians had little to play for this morning, and also because they rested regular lead Ben Hebert. With that prognostication out of the way, I asked Bruce whether he thinks we'll see the Norwegians break out those iconic checkered curling pants of Olympics past.
Toughest prediction I've been asked all week. You never know. Everybody loved Thomas Alsrud, who debuted the pants years ago, passed away after a battle with cancer. If they do, it'll be great. If they don't, I'll understand. They're in a pretty serious mode right now in this semifinal.
I hope they wear the pants. They might even draw away a few hockey viewers, since the men's curling semifinal and the women's hockey final are going at the same time, 1 Eastern. Now, from that soft ice at the Cortina Curling Center to the medium ice at the Santa Julia Hockey Arena, it is very much the surface of consequence today at the games, as it will be in the sport with the hardest ice of them all.
Go to the top. Right.
The men's 1,500 meters goes today at the Milano Speed Skating Stadium, and although Calgary's Daniel Hull and Quebec's David Leroux will be long shots on the long track, Jordan Stolz will not be. He's considered the next great in the sport. The Wisconsin native has already won 2 golds and could win 4 in total at these games. Today would be his 3rd top-of-the-podium finish, which no doubt would delight Robert Matthew Van Winkle, a.k.a. Vanilla Ice, who is from Texas. And that is your Olympic Games report this hour. I'm Scott Regehr.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is -5. Just a little bit of light snow in Winnipeg today, a bit of a northwest breeze, and our temperature not moving a whole lot, sticking close to where we are at -5 through the day. We begin in England with breaking news. As British media report, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been arrested. The former prince is being investigated for misconduct while in public office. Reports say 6 unmarked police cars and around 8 plainclothes officers arrived at his home on the Sandringham estate earlier today, police confirming the arrest. Recently released files related to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein suggest Mountbatten Windsor shared confidential information in 2010 when he was a trade envoy for Britain. Now, King Charles has issued a statement saying he is deeply concerned over the arrest of his brother, but says the law must take its course. All of this happening on the former prince's 66th birthday. You can hear the latest on this developing story coming up on World Report at 7. More than 1,500 weapons were detected by new AI-powered scanners at the Health Sciences Centre in Winnipeg over an 8-month period last year. More than 20% of those weapons were at the entrance to the Children's Hospital. That is according to new data from Shared Health obtained by Radio Canada through a Freedom of Information request. The president of the Manitoba Nurses Union, Darlene Jackson, says it is becoming more common for nurses to see weapons at children's emergency.
I am not surprised at the number that have been caught with the AI weapons detectors at adult emergency. However, it is worrying that they've caught well over 300 weapons going into children's emergency. That's very worrying.
Radio-Canada asked Shared Health to specify the nature of the weapons captured in its data, but has not received an immediate response. Friends and family of an 18-year-old Winnipeg woman are grieving and shaken after hearing she was murdered over the weekend. Winnipeg police say Avanti Hartlieb was found dead in a home on Yonge Street Saturday morning. Close friend Michelle Abraham says Hartlieb would light up a room and was loved by many. Abraham says they had had breakfast together on Friday, and then Hartlieb went back to her group home before messaging back saying she was going out that night.
I said Saturday on Valentine's Day, I hope you're doing okay. And I didn't know she was gone at that point. Sunday, I found out that she had passed away and that she was murdered actually. She was shot and killed. She didn't deserve to go.
Police say a 14-year-old boy has been charged with second-degree murder and criminal negligence causing death. He remains in custody. The trial of a man accused of fatally shooting 5 people continues today. Court heard yesterday the man's fingerprints were found at the Winnipeg drug house where the shootings took place 2 years ago. CBC's Bryce Hoy was following this in court.
Photos of the Langside Street apartment show a grisly scene. Dead victims surrounded in yellow police chalk, blood on the walls, bullet holes in the floor. It's where prosecutors allege Jamie Felix shot 5 people in November 2023. All died. Felix is pleading not guilty. At his jury trial yesterday, court heard investigators found bullet fragments from a Luger handgun and Felix's fingerprints at the scene. Crown attorneys emphasize those prints don't prove when Felix was at the crime scene, just that he was there. A homicide detective also told court about how interviews with Felix's mother and father helped police home in on Felix. His mother is expected to testify today. Bryce Hoy, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The visible security presence at the entrance to the Manitoba Legislature grounds is gone. No more concrete barriers or security officer idling in a vehicle. The province made the changes within the last week. Justice Minister Matt Wiebe says security will now be delivered through a combination of flexible and responsible measures. He adds the security checkpoint could return to the main entrance when required. The province is also removing the concrete barriers near the front steps to the Legislative Building. Those barriers were added just days after a man drove a truck onto the steps in 2021. Manitoba's first French private school is set to open in September. The institute will be part of an international network of French schools. The network is made up of roughly 550 schools around the world. Several are in Canada, but none between Calgary and Toronto. Founder Camille Fakiri says the school's French curriculum is similar to the French curriculum in Manitoba, but he says there is one big difference.
We have the chance that they are quite similar, but in France, we have 2 years in advance. For example, if you are in grade 4 here in Manitoba, you're going to learn things that we probably see in grade 2 or 3 in France.
Fakiri wanted to open the school last year, but was having trouble finding a space. Eventually, they found a spot in Morrow Gospel Church in St. Vital. And Canadian hockey fans are gearing up for the big game today. The Olympic women's team is going to play for gold against the United States. It all gets going at noon Central, and you can watch it on CBC Television and on CBC Gem, but you can also hear all the action right here on CBC Radio 1 starting at 12 o'clock. You can find the latest news at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
They're trying to give Canadian sports fans heart attacks, I think, because yesterday's men's game was like, what is going on? Yeah.
That was, and you know what? The American game also went into overtime. So there are some really nervous moments.
And curling went to the hammer throw, too, for Homan. So it's just been nuts.
Yeah.
Hopefully today, though, we see a really strong performance. As we've been hearing, our team really is the underdogs. And having Marie-Philippe Poulin back on the ice obviously is critical. But the fact that she scored both the goals last game is good news, but also kind of stressful, right?
Yeah, and you know what? The American women are a powerhouse team.
Yeah, they are. So we'll see what happens. I dug out my Team Canada jersey.
Oh, good for you.
The best social prize I ever won. I brought it. I'll put it on a little later in the show so we can show some love to the Manitobans on the team, right?
Absolutely.
Katie Tabin at her first games, and then Jocelyn the Rock, the veteran defender. All right, thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
More news and more headlines with Heather throughout the show. Right now, though, it's time for our regional forecast, and Abby Adiyemi's in with that.
Yes, Marcy, the winter system still pushing across the south. While we're looking at conditions up north, it's gripped by that deep, biting wind chill in the valleys of minus 40s. Snowfall warning in effect across the Westman region, the Parkland region, into the Interlake region. We're looking at additional 2 to 5 centimeters of snow expected to really add to what you already have on the ground at this time. And this might be making, travel challenging due to the heavy accumulations you'll be noticing on the highways in those regions. For Winnipeg right now, currently hovering around minus 6, minus 7, light snow falling. The temperature is going to hold steady. Expect periods of light snow to continue through the day. We'll see a high around minus 5 as the wind turns breezy from the northwest later this afternoon. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region, minus 8 at this time. Periods of light snow also expected. In the Westman region, we're seeing snowfall warning for Brandon towards Nipawin, around minus 13 at this time, with ongoing snow and some breezy conditions to tag along with that. In the Parkland region, Dauphin is currently at minus 12. Light snow also falling. For that part of the province, travel might really be impacted due to the accumulations we're seeing on the ground at this time. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Interlake region. Gimli also under snowfall warning. Light snow at the moment. Current temperatures around minus 7. For the northern part of the province, where we're tracking the cold spots, we're looking at minus 20 around Flin Flon at this time. Thompson is sitting at a freezing minus 26, though with the wind chill factored in, it feels close to minus 39, poses a risk of frostbite. And then to Tooele Lake, frigid at minus 31, it feels like minus 32 at this time. Churchill at minus 28, and the wind chill feels like minus 40 at this time. So down south, we're dealing with the snow. Up north, it's more about the deep freeze.
All right. So Abby mentioned that in the west we got problems. So that has led to school divisions, cancellations, and bus challenges. Here's the list to this hour. It's 20 to 7 right now. Schools are closed today in the Fort LaBosse School Division and Turtle Mountain School Division. In Colony, schools are closed in the Rolling River School Division. All others are open. Hatari and Colony school sites are closed in the Prairie Rose Division, and buses are canceled there, but all community schools will remain open. Rolling River School Division, by the way, also buses are canceled there. In addition, in the Brandon School Division, buses aren't operating rurally. Alexandria, O'Kelly, and Spring Valley schools are closed. All others are open. In the DSFM, École Saint-Lazare is closed. Plus, buses won't run in Beautiful Plains School Division. Those school is on. Mountain View School Division is canceling rural buses today. Dauphin in-city buses are still running. School is on there. And then finally, the bus cancellations in the Franco-Manitoban Division. École Horaire Lemoine, École Jour de Plain, École Régionale Notre-Dame-de-Lourdes, École Gilbert-Rossay, École La Source, and École Saint-Jean-Baptiste. No buses. Corey is in now with highway issues.
Yes, Highway 20. That's the only highway closed right now in the province. That's the highway that runs between Dauphin and Winnipeg-Osis, closed because of poor driving conditions. So we'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the morning. Also here in Winnipeg, the one issue to keep an eye out for, Burroughs and Keewatin, the multi-vehicle collision has knocked down a traffic standard. So those lights now are flashing red. So you do want to treat that as a four-way stop. Might be some slow going through Burroughs and Keewatin this morning. If you do see anything else, if you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, you can give me a call if you do see anything else out there. That number to call, 204-788-3093.
And this is always when the situation changes in the first hour. So in addition to the schools I mentioned, new in just now, all Southwest Horizon School Division buildings are closed and buses and classes are canceled there as well. Another challenging day. All right, let's get to what's happening in business news and see what challenges lie there. Crystal Ramlakan joins us next on CBC. Hello to you.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
Start with Canadian Tire. They say they're going to use artificial intelligence to better connect with consumers. How?
Well, the retailer says it's been developing a new platform with Microsoft to help staff better detect patterns in customer demand. So, for example, when customers are dealing with weather events like floods, or if they are picking up new fitness routines. So the insights will use to better coordinate inventory, products, promotions, digital content, and services. And of course, the company is saying this is going to be good for consumers, but obviously good for business and sales too. If they know what people want, they're going to sell more product. And Canadian Tire says when it piloted the tool recently, it identified more than 1,000 instances where the company could serve customers better. And it's going to be applying these insights to stores, online experiences, and merchandise this year. And the platform will be used at the company's other brands as well, Marks and Sport Check. And this builds on another AI tool Canadian Tire already uses to help with pricing and promotions.
Super interesting. And I have to say, and this is completely anecdotal, I was recently in a Canadian Tire in January and all of the bins and things were up front. And I happened to be sort of cleaning out my basement. But then I noticed all these other people sort of there reorganizing after the Christmas season, sort of.
Yeah.
And somebody actually asked me in the store, they were like, do you think this is like a trend or a thing? Like, why are all these bins right here? And here are all of us doing the same activity. And now you're saying this and I'm wondering, were they? Is this something about that? Well, we'll have to see.
Yeah, possibly.
Let's stay with shopping. eBay now, they want a bigger share of the Gen Z market. How are they going to do that?
Well, the online retailer has agreed to purchase secondhand fashion marketplace Depop from Etsy for about $1.2 billion. So this deal comes at a time when used clothing has become increasingly popular, with shoppers searching for unique items that cost less, and as they aim to keep older items from heading to the landfill. So eBay's CEO says the acquisition is an opportunity to capture a younger demographic, and Depop has attracted a cult following among Gen Z. Roughly 90% of its 7 million active buyers are under the age of 34. And secondhand clothing apps hit a stride during the pandemic as young shoppers sought to make and save money by buying and selling used outfits. And so at the time, Etsy really took note of that trend. And in 2021, it bought Depop for $1.6 billion as tech valuations soared at that time. But now Etsy is selling Depop for $1.2 billion as it tries to refocus on its namesake business.
And finally, why is the grandson of the inventor of the Reese's peanut butter cups calling out Hershey?
Well, he is accusing the candy company of hurting the Reese's brand by cutting corners and shifting to cheaper ingredients. Now, Hershey acknowledges some recipe changes in some products, but says it has been trying to meet consumer demand for innovation. And high cocoa prices have led Hershey and other manufacturers to experiment with using less chocolate in recent years. Now, H.B. Reese invented Reese's peanut butter cups all the way back in 1928. His 6 sons eventually sold the company to Hershey in 1963. And now grandson Brad Reese says he recently threw out a bag of Reese's mini hearts. And he noted the packaging said the candies are made from chocolate candy and peanut butter creme, not milk chocolate and peanut butter. However, Hershey says its peanut butter cups, though, are made the same way that they've always been made, with milk chocolate, peanut butter, and a few other ingredients, including sugar and salt. But yeah, the company says it does make recipe adjustments sometimes that allow for things like new shapes, sizes, innovations that customers have asked for. So yeah, maybe these mini hearts were made a little bit different. But yeah, this grandson, Brad Reese, he's 70 years old now. And he says he used to eat Reese's peanut butter cups every single day.
Wow. I'm hoping they do some research that says we can all do that without any ill health effects. I love those things.
I know it, but now he's disappointed with, the quality of them. So I'm not sure if he's eating them every day now.
All right, Crystalie, thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
Crystalie Roundlickham with our business news. Thanks for being with us, everyone. How you doing? I cannot believe that we're already we're past the halfway point in February, right? And that weather system really cruel to the west, and still lots of closures there with Highway 20 closed, and right around Dauphin, lots of issues with heavy snowfall amounts. We really did escape the worst of this in Winnipeg when you think about the need to shovel. We certainly did have a lot of snow yesterday, and today we are expecting periods of light snow to continue, but you can already see the pavement on Portage Avenue and your main routes here as much of it has melted. Well, employees of the Canadian Food Inspection Agency across the country are facing job layoffs. The reduction's part of the federal government's larger workforce strategy that was announced late last year. The Public Service Alliance of Canada, that represents some of the CFIA workers, has said more than 1,300 jobs at the agencies are going to be lost. Milton Dick is the national president of the Agriculture Union with PSAC. He says that CFIA workers already struggle to keep up with their workload. He fears the cuts may result in a food safety crisis.
The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has been getting pressured more and more over the last few years with emergencies such as the avian influenza, tuberculosis emergency out west. There's been the potato wart emergency in the Prince Edward Island, and then we have ongoing shellfish, oyster, clam issues in the Maritime. So there's all kinds of emergencies that are drawing more and more on the CFIA, and that's stretching our resources thin. And so as we lose inspectors, even within the plants, what we're losing that fallback for when we need to pull in emergency workers. You know, when we talk about avian influenza, it's very worrisome, especially how much, like in BC, the flocks have been really damaged. When you look at the United States, their egg issues where they had such high cost of eggs was because their avian influenza got away on them. The egg prices went through the roof, whereas we've managed to manage it a bit better and be on top of it. You know, credit to the CFIA for that, but it's still a stretch on our resources. The federal service has grown by 30% of employees in the last 10 years. However, in the same time, CFIA has dropped by 4%. So we've actually dropped in numbers with the CFIA, whereas the rest of the government service has ballooned by 30%, and yet we're being asked to have the same 15% cut. When we look at this, it's like, well, we've already been running lean. We've already been watching our budget for the CFIA, and I don't speak for the CFIA. I'm speaking about the CFIA as in my members. So the CFIA has not, grown so much that it needs to be cut back. And I think cutbacks in this time, as we've talked about the United States and all the emergencies, is a bad idea. I'm hoping that the cuts can be reversed.
That was Milton Dick speaking there, the national president of the Agriculture Union with the Public Service Alliance of Canada. It is now 10 to 7, and we'll have the latest on national and international news. Speaking of things happening federally, coming up at the top of the clock. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us here on CBC, live in downtown Winnipeg, where it is the warm spot right now in the province, -5. Snow, very, very trace amounts falling. Can't even see it through the window here. And winds are calm this morning in Winnipeg. Today we're going to be only around -5, so our temperature's not going to move. We are expecting no wind to be northwest 20 to 40 this afternoon, and some periods of light snow to continue through the day and tonight as well. But we seem to be on the back end of this system that we were concerned about, at least in Winnipeg. I will still mention where the warning level is, and that is to the west. So a yellow level warning for snowfall to the west, and also a little bit to the north here. So Selkirk still involved in this, Brannan, Melita, Verdendorf, and Minnedosa, Swan River, Arborg. The long period of snowfall continues, and total amounts up to 25 centimeters. Well, it's become a routine for countless people. You have a question, you ask AI, a chat GPT. But what if you asked for advice in starting a business and then you got something like this back?
Here's some steps you can take. 1. Research. Really get to know your audience. 2. New businesses often struggle with cash flow. So try Quick Dash Payday Loans, because girl bosses need CEO money quick.
That's a commercial, in case you didn't catch that, by Anthropic, the makers of the AI platform Claude, targeting their rival OpenAI. Now, that recently announced plans to bring ads to ChatGPT in the U.S. And to talk more about that, Francis Sims, who covers all tech issues for us, is with us now. Hi there.
Hi.
So most people, are looking at AI chatbots for research or to talk about these deeply personal issues that we've discussed before. How do ads fit into these interactions with chatbots?
Well, this is timely because just overnight, ChatGPT sent an email to users in Canada saying that ads are coming to Canadians now. And how they explain they're going to appear for users that can check their Gmail this morning or whatever, is that they're going to appear separate at the bottom of the email or the bottom of the message. So it's not going to appear in the context of the message. And the message is not going to be influenced by the ad sponsor. That's where it is right now in their testing environment. But we think or we imagine long term, some of these platforms are going to look at integrating it directly in the message. So you can imagine a scenario where you say, asking for its advice, and it says, well, there's a good herbal supplement that you can try. Maybe you're not feeling well. And did you know that down the street at the Shoppers Drug Mart, it's on sale and we can have it ready for you to pick up? That would be sort of the long-term vision that would be, really valuable for these companies. But initially, they're going to have it separated and clearly delineated from the message.
Does that matter, Francis, I wonder? Because the average user might not have it integrated right there, but it's still on your screen. So to the average person, it's still something that's popping up that's going to catch your eye.
Yeah, I think if it recommends an herbal remedy and then the herbal remedy it recommends is at the bottom of the message, yeah, you're probably going to try that herbal remedy first. That's why it's so valuable. Like if you do a click on an ad in Google, it's estimated that the company receives anywhere between $1 and say $50 for that click, depending on the type of service. You can imagine in this scenario, that AI tool knows you super personally, so the value to them when you click on that ad is huge, and they're going to make a lot of money off of you.
OpenAI continues to say that, quote, the best ads are useful, entertaining. They help people discover these new products and services. When you look at what AI can do and how much it knows about us, is there room for the ad experience to become relevant and helpful, do you think?
Yeah, I really dislike online shopping. Whenever I order or my wife orders, say a pair of jeans, inevitably what comes doesn't fit me and isn't really the style that I was looking for. So when I Google something, it's almost impossible to know what's real, what's fake, what's sponsored. It's a mess out there. So if AI in its altruistic form knew me super personally and was able to give me the product I absolutely needed, that was in my best interest, I'm all for it. But the concern I have here is that it's not going to be in my best interest, but it's going to be in the best interest of the ad provider.
As you said, this is extremely relevant because of that change overnight in Canada. So when you look at what we have in Canada in terms of laws, should this become a bigger problem? What can you tell us about that when it comes to those ads popping up?
So in Canada, we have two things that are in place that really protect us against traditional advertising. One is that if a message is sponsored, it has to be clearly identified as so. So think YouTubers. If they promote a product on their YouTube channel, they have to say this video is sponsored by whatever that company is. The second thing is you're not allowed to have deceptive marketing in Canada. What we don't have, though, is laws around algorithmic transparency. So that's a mouthful, but really what I mean is when you type something into a chat tool like ChatGPT, you have absolutely no idea how that decision is made. In Europe, they have a law around this so that you can then ask the tool, well, what was the process you came up for with that recommendation? And why that's important is as follows. Say you ask the tool, I'm not feeling well, what should I do? And, a medical professional might say, well, come and see a doctor, try some medicine, try a herbal remedy, get some more sleep, eat differently, a whole range of things. But what happens if the tool says, only take this herbal remedy? And then later on, it tells you, that it's sponsored by a particular herbal remedy. The fact that we don't know how that decision was made is problematic because we don't even know if it's deceptive marketing or if that even counts towards that.
Do you have any advice just before you go this morning about how people should think about interacting with these chatbots with a more critical lens, especially, if ads are in the mix now?
Yeah, 100%. So the first thing I say is just ask if the tool, if the message is sponsored. Because in Canada, they have to tell you. Number two, and I always recommend this for anybody using AI, is look at the source links. Ask for the links that it used to come up with its answers. And then go to those links because not only will AI have ads in it, but it might hallucinate. It might make stuff up. So, I tell our students all the time, look at the links. And the third thing is if it only gives you one recommendation, ask it for 5 recommendations or 10 recommendations. And that'll sort of protect you against this onslaught that's coming with ads, at least in the short term.
Great advice. Thank you very much, as always.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That's our technology columnist, Francis Sims, Associate Dean of the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology over at Humber Polytechnic. Let's get to, speaking of schools, what is going on with cancellations this morning. Here's your list up to 7 o'clock now for school and bus cancellations in Manitoba. Because of poor road conditions, all Southwest Horizon School Division buildings are closed as buses classes canceled there. Lakeshore Division's closed. Schools are closed in Fort LaBosse, in Turtle Mountain. Beautiful Plains is not running buses, but schools on. Rolling River, buses are canceled. Colony schools are closed. Prairie Rose School Division buses canceled in all regions. Hatarian Colony school sites are closed. Community schools are open. In Mountain View School Division, rural buses are canceled. Dauphin in-city buses will run, though, and school is on in Dauphin. Brandon School Division won't operate rural buses. Alexander O'Kelly and Spring Valley schools are closed. École Saint-Lazare is closed today, and then bus cancellations in École Aurel-le-Moyen, Jour-de-Plain, Régional Notre-Dame-de-Lourdes, Gilbert-Rossé, La Source, and Saint-Jean-Baptiste. So that's your list to this hour. This is all because of the storm system I mentioned. The yellow level snowfall warning continues for areas around Selkirk, Brandon, Melita, and through the Parkland, Dauphin, Minnedosa, Arborg, and Hecla. -5 in Winnipeg, very light snow falling. Our temperature will not move. If you need us on the commute, 788-3093. Highway 20 remains closed around Dauphin. Still ahead after 7 o'clock, the story of why Alberta MP Matt Genereux joined the Liberal Party and what it means for federal politics, and also for our chances of going to the polls or not. Plus, it's I Love to Read Month in Canada. We asked Winnipeggers if they're still reading, and Mayor Scott Gillingham will be here for our monthly interview. Heather Wells is here now, though, with headlines.
Well, the trial of a man accused of fatally shooting 5 people continues today. Court heard yesterday the man's fingerprints were found at the Winnipeg drug house where those shootings took place 2 years ago. The Manitoba legislative grounds are looking different these days. The visible security presence at the entrance is gone. No more concrete barriers or security officer idling in a vehicle. The province made the changes in the last week. The Justice Minister saying it's part of an evolving approach to security. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at Information Radio on CBC. Thank you for joining us, making us part of your Thursday morning. Hopefully you're having a good morning so far. Stay tuned. The latest in national and international news is coming up next at 7.
The Canadian women's hockey team goes for gold, facing off against Team USA in a heated rivalry that stretches back to the sport's first introduction at the Olympics in 1998. We'll talk about what's at stake and why these teams don't really like each other coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young.
This is completely unprecedented in modern history. In fact, the last time a senior royal or any royal has been taken into custody was in 1647.
A stunning fall from grace for former Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. British police arrested him at his home in Norfolk this morning. We have just received a rare personal statement from King Charles. He says the law must now take its course. My World Report co-host John Northcott is with me in studio. And John, what is happening today?
Marcia, this comes as police search Andrew's home on the grounds of the King's Sandringham estate and his former residence at Windsor Castle. The former prince is in custody on suspicion of misconduct in public office, an offence that carries a maximum penalty of life in prison. There have been allegations Andrew sent trade reports to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in 2010. Andrew served for a decade as the UK's Special Representative for International Trade and Investment, and in that capacity, he would have had access to potentially sensitive British government material that might have proven valuable to others.
John, this story has been unfolding for a while. Give us some of the backstory.
Marcia, Andrew has been under suspicion for years for his alleged treatment of young women and for his relationship with the late sex offender and international wheeler dealer Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew has long denied any wrongdoing. Nonetheless, he was stripped of his titles and royal duties by his brother, the King. With the ongoing release of the Epstein files, there have been increasing pressure on UK authorities to investigate the former prince's links and activities, but this does appear at this stage to be an investigation into the potential release of privileged state information rather than any sexual misconduct.
So there's now reaction to the news of the arrest coming. What are we hearing?
We're hearing from the King, Andrew's older brother, saying that the authorities, quote, have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation, that the law must take its course. We're also hearing from the family of Andrew's alleged victim, the late Virginia Giuffre, saying that the investigation has, quote, lifted our hearts, saying that no one is above the law.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Marcia.
My World Report co-host, John Northcott, in studio. Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates is also facing fresh scrutiny for his past ties to Jeffrey Epstein. The questions are so intense, he canceled his keynote speech. That was just hours before he was supposed to go on stage at an AI summit in India. It is being held in New Delhi. India says it wants to lead the AI revolution. It has accepted a $15 billion commitment from Google for new infrastructure. But as South Asia correspondent Salima Shivji tells us, AI could have an environmental cost in a nation that is already water scarce.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi touting AI as a sound and necessary investment. India is not scared, he says. We see fortune and a future in AI. The country is hosting the first edition of the Global Summit to ever take place in a developing nation. And this year's summit is focused squarely on business deals and opportunity, even if regular attendees had to deal with long lines, overcrowding, and frequent road closures for VIP movement.
His Excellency Emmanuel Macron.
Some 15 heads of state are in Delhi for the event, including France's Emmanuel Macron, alongside big tech leaders.
Part of our $15 billion infrastructure investment in India.
Google's CEO Sundar Pichai highlighting a key project to build a massive data center in an Indian coastal city known as Vizag. There are a string of new or expanded data centers planned as India tries to lure AI investment. But each facility requires large amounts of water and energy to keep servers cool, a potential environmental risk for water-scarce India.
I don't see as much attention being paid to that conversation.
Says Arpita Kanjilal, a researcher with the Delhi-based nonprofit Digital Empowerment Foundation.
Which supply is being directed towards the data centers? Like if state is also supplying water in large scale, then it would be having some impact on rest of the communities who are living in the state.
An open question still as India and other countries try to jostle for a prime spot in the future of AI development. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Delhi.
U.S. President Donald Trump will chair his first Board of Peace meeting today in Washington. The organization was formed last month to focus on the reconstruction of Gaza. Trump says countries have pledged more than $5 billion toward that task. But Gaza is still in a humanitarian crisis, and the U.S. Peace and Recovery Plan appears to have stalled. Canada and European nations have not joined the Board of Peace. South Korea's former president Yoon Suk-yeol has been sentenced to life in prison. The punishment is for his 2024 attempt to impose martial law. A judge today called it a rebellion designed to seize unchecked power. Yoon's lawyer is already slamming the verdict.
Watching what appears to be a collapse of the rule of law today, I question whether we should proceed.
He says Yoon's legal team may appeal the sentence. Prosecutors wanted the death penalty, but the judge says there were no casualties. Yoon is the first former South Korean leader to receive a life sentence in 30 years. Tonight is the final debate of the NDP leadership race. In just over a month, party members will decide who they want to take the helm. So tonight, the 5 candidates will be trying to make a big impression. The CBC's David Thurton has more on who is starting to break out of the pack.
The race seems to be coming down to Heather and Avi.
Former New Democrat MP Nathan Cullen will be watching those 2 candidates closely at tonight's debate. For Cullen, both Heather McPherson and Avi Lewis have been appealing to different political factions. McPherson tapping into her prairie base with her pragmatic approach, Lewis attracting a more radical wing that wants a bolder vision.
And I'll be interested in Avi's ability to appeal beyond what I would call a traditional, more hardline activist base. Heather's appeal has grown. And for her, I think the challenge that I'm looking to see what she does with is how much risk is she willing to take? Is she too safe?
3 other candidates will join the 2 frontrunners on stage. Rob Ashton, a labor leader, Tenille Johnston, a social worker, and Tony McQuail, a farmer, all face another task, reaching a bigger audience, according to former NDP Communications Director Melanie Richer.
So the opportunity of the English debate, which we know more folks will be tuned into, is an opportunity to start sharing those ideas, not just with members, but also with Canadians.
A task all the more important in the final countdown to the March leadership vote, and as threats of a snap federal election loom, with Prime Minister Mark Carney riding high in the polls. David Thornton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Canada's women's hockey team is playing for gold today. They are facing off against Team USA once more. And Canadian hockey fans are already in a frenzy after yesterday's men's game against Czechia. It took team captain Sidney Crosby off the ice, and as Briar Stewart reports, fans are still waiting for an update on his health.
Outside of the Santa Julia Arena, Canadian fans belt out the national anthem after a quarterfinal that had the intensity of a gold medal game. Canada won in overtime after a goal by Mitch Marner. It was a tense ride for fans.
I think adversity is needed to win a tournament like this.
William Hesseltine is from Calgary and spoke to CBC News outside of the arena as he wore a cowboy hat and Team Canada jersey.
If you were going to write a game script for an upset, the Czechs wrote it, credit to them. But at the end of the day, star power prevailed there a little bit.
It's not clear what the status is of Sidney Crosby, who went out of the game after taking a hit, causing his right leg to bend awkwardly. Team Canada's men will face Finland in the semi-final on Friday, but it's the women's team who will be going for gold today. They take on the U.S. in the next chapter of this historic rivalry. It's expected to be a challenge for Canada. In the preliminary round, they lost to the U.S. 5-0, but Canadian captain Marie-Philippe Poulin was out with an injury. She has since returned to play, and in Canada's last game against the Swiss, she scored both of the goals and broke Hayley Wickenheiser's record for the most goals at the Olympics. While Canada is seen as the underdog in this match, the team and its fans are hoping they bring home gold, as they have in the vast majority of Olympic finals. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Milan.
CBC is Canada's Olympic network. You can watch the Canadian women's gold medal hockey game live or on demand on CBC Gem. Puck Drop is at 1 p.m. Eastern, and if you can't be in front of a TV at that time, no problem. We will have live coverage on CBC Radio 1. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime. CBCnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Yep, Radio Noon's going to be preempted by that game, and I suspect across Manitoba there's going to be more than a few watch parties over the lunch hour, especially with Jocelyn the Rock from St. Anne and Katie Tabin from Winnipeg on the ice. Go Team Canada. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us here live from Winnipeg on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. This hour on the show, it is February, and it is also I Love to Read month. Are people still reading? And what are you reading? We're going to find out when we hit the streets of Winnipeg this hour to talk a little bit about books. In addition, we have our monthly check-in with Winnipeg Mayor Scott Gillingham. He'll be here in studio. More on the recent backpedaling on the protest bylaw that drew hundreds to City Hall this week. Also, his thoughts on working with the province on trying to get more stable funding for the city of Winnipeg. It's something we asked the Premier about, but as the Premier said, he's judging how to spend the money and looking at needing more funding for health care and making those choices. So in the meantime, what do cities do as they try to continue to have more money to fix things like our roads? So we'll talk to the mayor about that this hour on the show. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells with headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, hundreds of weapons came through the doors of Manitoba's largest hospital over an 8-month period last year. That's according to new data from Shared Health obtained by Radio-Canada through a Freedom of Information request. More than 1,500 weapons were detected by AI-powered scanners at the Health Sciences Centre. More than 300 of those weapons were detected at the entrance to Children's Hospital. We are going to hear from the head of the Manitoba Nurses Union coming up. As well, family and friends of an 18-year-old Winnipeg woman are grieving and shaken after hearing she was murdered over the weekend. Police say Avante Hartlieb was found dead in a home on Yonge Street. Close friend Michelle Abraham says Hartlieb would light up a room and was loved by many. We'll hear more about her in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Due to issues with the weather in Western Manitoba, here's what is closed when it comes to school divisions and also bus cancellations. So here's what's closed. Southwest Horizon School Division, Lakeshore, Fort LaBosse, Turtle Mountain. Colony schools are closed in the Rolling River Division. Hatarian Colony school sites are closed in the Prairie Rose School Division. Alexander O'Kelly and Spring Valley Schools closed in the Brandon School Division, and Ecole St. Lazare in the DSFM. Here's where buses are affected. We have buses not running in Beautiful Plains School Division, Rolling River School Division with no buses. Prairie Rose has canceled buses as well. Rural buses in Mountain View School Division are closed. In-city buses in Brandon, in Dauphin will run. In Brandon, also rural buses won't run, but in Brandon, they will. And then finally, bus cancellations in École, Aurel-le-Moyen, Jour-de-Plain, Regional Notre-Dame-de-Lourdes, Gilbert-Rossé-La Source, and Saint-Jean-Baptiste. For a quick look at weather, here's Abby.
Yeah, we have that snowfall warning impacting the Westman all the way down to the Interlake region. We're looking at additional 2 to 5 centimeters of snow accumulation on the ground. That would make travel difficult. But Winnipeg right now, we're looking at -7 snow falling in the city.
On the highways, Highway 20 between Dauphin and Winnipeg Oasis is still closed right now due to poor driving conditions. That's the only highway that is closed right now in the province, but there is still, looking on Manitoba 511, a lot of covered conditions, so do be careful if you're hitting the highways today. Here in the city, Burroughs and Keewatin, there's been a light standard knocked down by a collision, and that means the lights are flashing red, so treat that as a four-way stop. Might be some slow going there. If you have any updates for me on the highways, roads, bike lanes, give me a call. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, let's talk about politics, because a lot of people are wondering in this country if we're going to go to the polls or we not. But the Liberals are now inching toward a majority. And that is because Edmonton MP Matt Genereux says Prime Minister Mark Carney's speech at Davos about the New World Order and Canada's role in it inspired him to cross the floor and join the party yesterday. He says he didn't want to sit on the sidelines at this important time. You might remember he recently resigned from from politics overall and then from the Conservatives. He's now the third Conservative MP to join the Liberals. So in doing so, as I said, it nudges Carney close to a majority in Parliament. Dwayne Bratt is a political scientist over at Mount Royal University and here to talk about it. Good morning.
Good morning.
So for Canadians, I mean, for people listening, we won't go to the polls if there's a majority. They're one away. Is that correct? Like if my math is right, if Chrystia Freeland's seat,
they're three away.
Okay, tell us.
But there's 3 vacant seats, and so you mentioned Chrystia Freeland. Her seat is now vacant. Bill Blair's seat in Toronto is also vacant. Those are really safe Liberal seats. So then that pushes them to 171, which is one less than what they require for a majority. But there's also one other by-election, and that is in Terrebonne, Quebec. This is absolutely fascinating. This was a traditional bloc riding. The Liberals won it in April by 1 vote. One single vote. But there were some problems with the voting, so much so that it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and last week, the Supreme Court annulled that result and ordered a by-election. So in this one tiny riding in remote Quebec that Mark Carney visited, interestingly, already this week, got the hockey jersey and everything, could decide whether we have a majority or minority. But quite frankly, whether the Liberals are at 170 or 172, they have a functional majority right now. They're able to get things done. They are governing. And hopefully, with the latest floor crossing and some of these by-election results, will stop this endless, constant speculation about election timing that seems to have occurred almost the moment since Mark Carney won. You know, are the Conservatives going to bring him down? Maybe Mark Carney will call a snap election. We have some real significant challenges facing this country right now, and I would hope that the energy would be on governing, not campaigning.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, obviously not pleased. Tell us a little bit more about what this could mean for him politically or not.
I think he has been damaged by this. It was only a month ago that he had a very successful Conservative convention in Calgary, got 87% approval in his leadership review. But even at that time, there was speculation that if there was another floor crossing or two floor crossings, or if his poll numbers versus Carney and the Liberals were to get worse, it would be a challenge for Poilievre. And sure enough, that is what has happened. There's now 3 floor crossers in the span of a handful of months. The gap between the Liberals and the Conservatives is increasing, and the gap between Carney and Poilievre on who Canadians view would make the best prime minister is almost 30-point difference. And just to add to that complexity, he's got problems in his own caucus. He's got Jamal Janavi, backbencher from Oshawa, seemingly trying to run his own Canadian foreign policy down in Washington with J.D. Vance. He's got issues in Alberta where the Conservatives are being asked about their views on separatism, and no one has spoken except for Poilievre. And we also have to look at the background of Matt Genereux, because last fall he was expected to cross the floor. There were rumors that him and several others were going to go. In the end, only Christophe Tremont of Nova Scotia went. And Matt Genereux announced, no, he was just going to resign from politics. But that same day, Pierre Poilievre said, no, he's resigning, but 6 months from now. He's going to resign in April. And then Matt Genereux said, oh, yeah, I'm going to resign 6 months from now. None of it made sense. And so the speculation started that, no, Genereux was about to cross. The Conservatives got wind of it. They put significant political pressure, some might even call it bullying, and they made this compromise that you're not going to cross the floor, you're just going to resign and go away. Well, sure enough, a couple months later, he's now crossed the floor. And he didn't mention any of that in his press conference. It was all about the Davos speech.
Yeah. Just before you go, we only have a minute left here, but he is going to take on Genereux a special portfolio with the Liberals. Do we actually know what he's going to be doing?
No. I think it's a made-up title. There's no legislative authority. There's no staff. There's no budget. There's no job description. There's no terms of reference. So I don't know what he's doing. It was not explained by either Carney or Genereux. It's possible that maybe he is playing a significant advisory role, or that's the plan. And maybe in 4 months, 5 months, there'll be some indication of that. But right now, I have no idea what it means.
All right, Twain, thanks for the analysis.
All right, you're welcome.
Lots of numbers to follow out of Ottawa. Dwayne Bratt, political scientist at Mount Royal University, helping us with the latest developments. Time right now is 7:20.
It's time to get loud, Canada, because Milano Cortina 2026 isn't just on your screen. It's happening across the country, and you're invited to join the celebration. CBC is hosting free live events packed with family fun, games, and activities, and full-on Team Canada energy. So get off the couch, come on down, and let's celebrate the games together. To find events near you, visit cbc.ca/experiences.
Coming up, we're going to talk to the mayor of the city of Winnipeg. He'll be here for our regular monthly interview. A number of things to chat about. I should say interview him about. One of them is the protest bylaw, right? A lot of people were upset about it, showing up. They were scheduled to have, I think it was like dozens for sure. I think the number was 100 different people talking about it outside City Hall yesterday. And then all of a sudden they kind of backtracked on this. One of the councillors, amendments were made. So where does the mayor sit in terms of his thoughts on this protest bylaw being needed or not? What does he think of the amendments? So we'll get into that. Also, we're going to talk more to him about what happened at police headquarters and how easy it was to cripple that building. Remember, it was just 2 people pulling an alarm in a stairwell to trigger the flooding there that really cripple the building. So stay tuned. That's all coming up with Scott Gillingham. Right now, though, we have a power ballad. I love me a good power ballad, I won't lie. This one involving the Pride of the Prairies, Carmen Manitobans Foja, singing with John Legend. This is Minefields on 89.3 FM.
Now this might be a mistake that I'm calling you the Slade, but these dreams I have of you ain't real enough.
Started bringing up the past, how the things you love don't last, even though this isn't fair for both of us.
Ooh, maybe I'm just a fool, I still belong with you, anywhere you are. Ooh, these minefields that I walk through, ooh, what I risk to be close to you. Ooh, these minefields keeping me from you. Ooh, what I risk to be close to you. Close to you. I didn't notice what I lost until all the lights were off, and not knowing what you're up to tortured me.
Now this might be a mistake, we're broken in so many ways, but I piece us back together slowly.
Ooh, maybe I'm just a fool, I still belong with you, anywhere you are. Ooh, these minefields that I walk through, ooh, what I risk to be close to you. Ooh, these minefields keeping me from you. Oh, I risk to be close to you, close to you. To be close to you, close to Now this might be a mistake that I'm calling you the Slade, but these dreams I have of you ain't real enough.
Foja and John Legend in Minefields. I love that one. I love when they go, ooh, and you hear their voices together. It's so cool. We are coming up to 7:25, and we're going to get the Olympic update in just a moment. Then local news at 7:30. I need to correct myself here. I talked about the protest bylaw and people at City Hall and how it was changed. This all developing Tuesday, so I said the wrong day there. And also at the police headquarters, I was mentioning in a stairwell how the building was compromised by two people responsible, and we're going to talk to the mayor about it. We will, but it was not an alarm that they pulled. It was a valve that they opened. Stay with us.
Good morning, I'm Scott Regehr with your Olympic Games report.
Good morning, I'm
It
Scott
is day
Regehr with your
13 in
Olympic
Milano
Games
Cortina,
report.
and it won't just be triskaidekaphobics fearing what could take place on the ice.
Much closer than Canada had anticipated. But for the 8th straight time in Winter Olympic history, Canada will play for gold.
After eking out that semi-final win over Switzerland, Canada's women's hockey team plays for gold today. To the surprise of very few, it's against their longtime rivals, the U.S. It's been a one-sided rivalry of late, with the Americans sweeping a pre-Olympic series 4-0 and then shutting out Canada 5-0 in the preliminary round at these games. As a result, odds makers are giving the U.S. a better than 80% chance to claim gold today. Veteran Canadian defender Renata Fast was asked about that.
We hear it, but that's just noise in the background, and we need to play with a lot of pride and a lot of heart. So that's what our group will do. We're focused on our game plan and what we need to do to execute, and we're going to come in with a lot of confidence.
While that confidence could be tough to conjure given the recent history between these two teams, longer-term history is more encouraging. Over nearly 3 decades of matching up against each other in Olympic finals, Canada has a clear edge, winning 5 golds to the Americans 2. CBC Radio will have live coverage of today's game starting at 1 Eastern Time.
Norway's lasted 10.
Cut the back one, too. Yes.
What a shot by Norway, and they are going to the Final Four.
Norway with a win in men's curling this morning over Canada. The same two teams will meet in a semifinal this afternoon. That goes at 1:05 Eastern, so curling and hockey fans in this country will have a viewing decision to make. No such quandary for Rachel Homan fans. Canada's women's skip plays South Korea in a match that should start shortly and that Homan needs to win to make it into a semifinal of her own. I say should start shortly because that game has already been delayed by half an hour because of snow in Cortina that's made it tough for athletes to get to their venues. So hopefully Rachel Homan and her teammates packed snow boots in addition to those curling sliders. Now to a sport where skins are among the key pieces of equipment.
It's man versus mountain. The home of ski mountaineering. Skimo.
Ski mountaineering, or Skimo, makes its Olympic debut at the Games today. My Olympic Report co-host, Sonali Karnik, has more on this challenging event. Good morning, Sonali.
Good morning.
So what exactly is ski mountaineering?
Well, it sounds a little insane, doesn't it, Scott, to race both downhill and uphill?
Just a little.
Well, you can see the athletes in this sport carry around some equipment, and that's because for the uphill portion of the trek, they need to wear a special layer called a skin underneath their skis to grip the snow when they're going for the uphill portion. And this is a fabric layer that you have to strap onto your skis. And it's not just skiing either in Skimo. You'll also see the racers strap the skis to their pack and climb uphill on foot. In this case, they're also going upstairs in Italy on the course because you know what? Why not? And then they're going to put their skis on and they'll race downhill.
Reminds me a bit, Sonalia, of the Summer Olympic sport triathlon, where you're doing all kinds of different stuff. And that portion, especially when they're on their bicycles and then just chuck them aside and start running like heck for the final portion of the event. That's what I see when I watch Skimo, though it looks a little bit colder than the triathlon.
Well, the transitions are everything in this sport, only because when you're doing the sprint, it's a race that only lasts 3 minutes, Scott. Like, if you waste time changing your skins, taking them off, putting them on, that's a lot of time wasted. In the mixed relay, that event lasts anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour, and you're looping that course. So you have to be able to take things on and put them, take them off, rather, and put them on very quickly. It is strength, endurance, speed, and you do have to be a little insane to do it. And, it's one of the most unique and fun sports at the Olympics this time.
For sure. I'm a fan. Never going to be a participant, but definitely a fan. Thanks, Sonali.
Thanks, Scott.
My Olympic Report co-host, Sonali Karnik. And by the way, no Canadians qualified for Skimo as it makes its debut at these games. I think I might get my sons training for the next ones. And that is your Olympic Games report this hour. I'm Scott Rigger.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is -5. Get used to what that feels like because that's where we're going to be for most of the day. Periods of light snow continuing today as well. Hundreds of weapons came through the doors of Manitoba's largest hospital over an 8-month period last year. That is according to new data from Shared Health obtained by Radio-Canada through a Freedom of Information request. More than 1,500 weapons were detected by AI-powered scanners at the Health Sciences Centre. More than 300 of those weapons were detected at the entrance to the Children's Hospital. Manitoba Nurses Union President Darlene Jackson says nurses worry about the number of weapons entering their workplace.
From nurses in the children's ED that there are more and more weapons coming in. Violence has increased rapidly in that area of Health Sciences Centre.
Last year, the union graylisted the Health Sciences Centre amid growing safety concerns. The boyfriend of an 18-year-old woman murdered over the weekend says he is angry and heartbroken. Winnipeg police say Avanti Hartlieb was found dead in a home on Yonge Street Saturday morning. A 14-year-old boy has been charged with criminal negligence causing death and second-degree murder. Hartlieb's close friends gathered at a sacred fire yesterday in her honor. Ethan Tillingbell says he met Hartlieb a few years ago. He says they shared dreams of exploring the world, going to college, and having their own house.
Avery was strong and very kind, and she was always there for people. She never would leave somebody, especially if they were hurting.
Family and friends say Hartlieb had been in CFS care for most of her life and had bounced around between foster homes and group homes. The accused boy, who can't be named under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, remains in custody. The trial of a man accused of fatally shooting 5 people continues today. Court heard yesterday the man's fingerprints were found at the Winnipeg drug house where the shootings took place 2 years ago. CBC's Bryce Hoy was in court.
Photos of the Langside Street apartment show a grisly scene. Dead victims surrounded in yellow police chalk, blood on the walls, bullet holes in the floor. It's where prosecutors allege Jamie Felix shot 5 people in November 2023. All died. Felix is pleading not guilty. At his jury trial yesterday, court heard investigators found bullet fragments from a Luger handgun and Felix's fingerprints at the scene. Crown attorneys emphasize those prints don't prove when Felix was at the crime scene, just that he was there. A homicide detective also told court about how interviews with Felix's mother and father helped police home in on Felix. His mother is expected to testify today. Bryce Hoy, CBC News, Winnipeg.
King Charles says the law must take its course in the investigation of his brother, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who turned 66 today. The former prince, who was stripped of his royal titles because of his links to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, was arrested today by UK police in eastern England on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Tame Valley Police previously said it was assessing reports Mountbatten Windsor sent confidential trade reports to Epstein in 2010. You can hear the latest on this developing story coming up on World Report at 8. The Manitoba legislature grounds are looking a little different these days. The Justice Minister says it's part of an evolving approach to securing the property. CBC's Ian Fraze explains.
The legislature boosted security during the pandemic, but now a few of those measures are gone. The main entrance to the grounds now clear of concrete barriers and staff checking vehicles. Also gone, the concrete barricades at the bottom of the steps to the building, which were implemented after a man drove a truck onto the legislature steps in 2021. Justice Minister Matt Wiebe not giving a reason for the recent change, but says security will be maintained through a mix of flexible and responsible measures. They could include restoring a main entrance checkpoint if needed. Other safety measures introduced in the past years remain. If you're visiting, expect to go through a metal detector and swap your photo ID for a pass. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Manitoba's first French private school is set to open next September. The institute will be part of an international network of French schools. The network made up of roughly 550 schools around the world, several in Canada, but none between Calgary and Toronto. Founder Camille Fakiri says the school's French curriculum is similar to the French curriculum in Manitoba, but there is one big difference.
We have the chance that they are quite similar, but in France, we have 2 years in advance. For example, if you are in grade 4 here in Manitoba, you're going to learn things that we probably see in grade 2 or 3 in France.
Fakiri wanted to open the school last year but was having trouble finding a space. Eventually, they found a spot in Morrow Gospel Church in St. Vital. Well, Winnipeg was spared the worst of this week's big snowstorm that hit the prairies over the past 2 days. Chris Stammers at Environment and Climate Change Canada says while Winnipeg only had 2 to 3 centimeters, the storm did come close. Portage and Dauphin all saw around 15 centimeters, Morden measuring 18, Brandon had 8. But most of the snow fell on Boissevain, shoveling out from under 25 centimeters of fresh snow. And just a programming note for you, we are going to carry live coverage right here on CBC Radio 1 of the Olympic women's hockey team playing for gold against the United States. It all begins at noon Central Time. You can find more Manitoba news at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Sounds like a good day to grab a jersey and make a lunch date.
Oh, I like that.
Somewhere with some TVs.
Big TVs.
Yeah. Or the radio in your ear. Exactly,
Yeah.
I was going to say. Could do both. All right, thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
Let's get to what's closed in the west because of all the snow Heather was mentioning. Oh boy, Boissevain. So the Southwest Horizon School Division, buildings closed, buses classes canceled. Also, Lakeshore is all closed, Fort LaBosse, Turtle Mountain, all closed. In Beautiful Plains, no buses running, schools open though. Rolling River, buses canceled, Colony schools closed. Prairie Rose School Division, no buses in all regions. Hatarian Colony school sites are also closed. Community schools, though, remain open. In Mountain View School Division, no rural buses. Dauphin is all running, though, in the city. Alexander, O'Kelly, and Spring Valley schools are closed. Otherwise, in the Brandon School Division, no rural buses, but in Brandon, everything's on. École Saint-Lazare is closed. And for bus cancellations in the DSFM, we have Aurel-le-Moin, Jour de Plain, Regional Notre-Dame-de-Lourdes, Gilbert-Rosset, and La Source, as well as Saint-Jean-Baptiste. So, you are staying in your PJs, as I like to say, and here's Abby with the weather.
Yes, if you're along the Dauphin and Brandon region, you will be getting a messy and snow-filled day. We are still expecting additional 2 to 5 centimeters of snow to come with what you already have on the ground in that part of the province. While here in the city, we're looking at just a decent amount of snowfall just coming down in the Red River at this time. -6, we're seeing temperatures going to hold steady near -5 all day. Though we're going to get like on and off periods of snow, but nothing to really cause concern across the city. We're just going to see that continue through the afternoon. And then overnight, we'll see temperatures drop to -11. Across the southern regions, we're seeing temperatures hover between -5 and -14. Expect highs around -5 in the Pembina Valley region and the Gimli area, while Brandon should be seeing temperatures struggling to reach -10. For the northern part of the province, we're looking at that winter-like temperature turning into dangerous freeze. We're talking about temperatures sitting close to -31 in some areas, and we see -26, -28 as you travel towards Churchill, -30 towards Tuduli Lake, and the wind chill values around -42 this morning. But for Winnipeg, we are just hovering around -6 and -7 all morning.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk, what do you know about the road?
Yeah, really just one issue on the highway right now. That's Highway 20 between Dauphin and Winnipeg Oast is closed right now due to poor conditions. We'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the morning. Here in the city, Burroughs and Keewaydon, those lights are flashing red. There was a light standard knocked down by a collision. So maybe slow going through there. Treat that as a 4-way stop. But if you do see something else going on, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Well, it is reading week for a lot of post-secondary students all across Manitoba. So it's also I Love to Read month in Canada. So we thought we'd play with that whole reading idea. It's a time when people are encouraged to turn the pages rather than scroll their cell phones. So we sent Jim Agapito from our unit to the Forks to ask Winnipeggers a simple question. What are you reading?
My full name is Anna Tayoun. I'm 16 years old.
What do you like to read?
I like to read more adventure, fantasy, usually depends. Sometimes talking about like poverty, yeah.
I'm Sammy Stevens and I'm 16. Fantasies and romance.
Okay, why do you like those genres?
Because with fantasy, it's like you're escaping from reality and you can see how life is compared to this life. And then romance, because I just like seeing people fall in love.
Mason Pronger. I like sort of like a horror thriller books, those sorts of novels.
Why do you like those genres?
I think just the intensity really keeps my focus is the main thing.
Hannah Dunlop,
I usually like to read a lot of fiction, but I also like to vary it out sometimes. I find it very interesting, and it's nice to kind of, infer maybe some like lessons or life lessons just from fiction. Nonfiction is also very great, but it's good to kind of see it paralleled in something that may not be an exact copy of what's going on right now.
My name is Sydney Krobner. I really like fantasy and action type books, like Rick Riordan is my favorite author. So.
Okay, what is it about those genres that you're attracted to?
It's just the world building mostly. I really like seeing how different authors can create their different magic systems and all that, and how they use mythology and create that world around them.
And what are you reading right now?
Right now, I was reading this one book called The Rule of Three. So it's about this boy who's trying to make his way through his life because there's the world is shutting down. He's also my age, and he's doing this, which is really hard. He's surviving, and I think about what would happen if the world ends sometimes. So it's really interesting to read.
Now, question, what are you reading right now?
Orange. It's a manga. Like a anime book, basically.
Kind of like a graphic novel?
Yeah. I just like how it's based in high school, and there's a group of friends and how their friendship evolves around the high school, and some romance in it too, and just how far they come out of high school to graduating.
Tell me a little bit about the book you're reading.
Sure. The story I'm reading right now is The King in Yellow. It's a story about a sort of extraterrestrial sort of being that is incomprehensible by everybody in the world. So it's mainly a collection of short stories.
I'm currently reading a book called My Name is Amelia Davai. It's about a woman in about the 1800s who's becoming a writer and a journalist at a time when women aren't known for being writers or journalists. So how she navigates that very male-dominated field is very interesting.
I'm actually reading the fourth book of the first Percy Jackson series. It's called The Battle of the Labyrinth. I've read it, I think, over 20 times at this point, and I just love the series. I love the characters and how they interact, and just, the world building again. It's a book for all ages. I started reading it at 12, and I still like it at 19 years old. So it's definitely a book for all ages, and I don't know, it just draws you in.
A lot of people have books like that, right? That stay with you. You've read them years ago, but you still want to give it a reread. CBC's Jim Agapito was at the Forks in Winnipeg, just checking with people. What are you reading? It is I Love to Read Month, of course. And then also it is Reading Week, where you're taking a break from reading the school books and maybe you're into your personal stuff. It's 7:43 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 9:90 a.m. on that app and on YouTube. Winnipeg escaping most of that snow. Certainly we did have some of it here, but nothing like what they're seeing in Boissevain into the west, where we still have school closures, and Highway 20 up around Dauphin is still closed this morning as well because of the snow. And we still have a warning actually for snowfall up in that region. So by the time it's all said and done, around 25 centimeters and more coming today. But Winnipeg, really, if I look out the window of our studio here at CBC, we've got wet Portage Avenue already. So a lot of it already has melted on the roadways. Well, next on the show, Mayor Scott Gillingham is back in for his monthly check-in and interview, and he's in studio live. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, Marcy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So let's talk about something that developed this week and went back and forth. We actually have some Winnipeggers to play for you. This is about the Safe Access to Vulnerable Infrastructure bylaw. A lot of people are just calling it the protest bylaw. So just to make sure we have the context here, this is the bylaw that would have created 100-meter buffer zones around a range of sites, schools, hospitals, cultural centers, within those zones, so-called, quote, nuisance protests would have been prohibited for various reasons. So this was on the books and then walked back. Various opinions about it. We're going to play you two from some Winnipeggers. The first one is Andrew Cohen. He's a community organizer. He helped mobilize opposition to the bylaw.
I think everybody understood that this is important. I think everyone out there, from labor organizations to Indigenous activists to community members who want to go on bike rides together, they all knew that this is do or die.
So in opposition, and now we also have the call to play for you. This was on Radio Noon on our call-in. A listener named Louise called in. Here are her thoughts.
what came into my mind was a situation that happened during COVID, and people were protesting public health policy outside the hospitals, hurling insults at the people going in who are doing a job under very difficult circumstances, creating more stress for patients and families. And I'd like to protect their rights as well. I think if we're going to protest, you should take it closer to where the people who actually are involved with the policy. A real need to protect democracy at every level, the rights of those individuals to protest. But I do feel that there is a need for balance.
So there's a lot of thoughts on this, and I know we're throwing a lot of context out first, but that's because now I'm wondering how you're going to move forward with this. Councillor Evan Duncan has talked about, why this was walked back. Where are you at now with your thinking about this bylaw?
Very much where Councillor Duncan is at. So I think the two clips you played really do show the two sides of this issue, that the bylaw was really trying to achieve that balance. There was never an intent to ban protests. That's a charter right, a charter right that I think we must protect at all costs.
So I have to interject there for a second, because do you regret the language then, quote, nuisance protests?
I don't know what the language, for sure that the bylaw...
Because you can see why that would get people up and
yes, there were several things in that bylaw. It was too broad. There were some other things that should have been, tightened up, perhaps changed, without a doubt. On the other hand, we have to make sure that people are protected. I think it was Louise, the clip that you played, she makes a very good point. This bylaw attempted to strike that balance, protecting people from accessing the places they need to access, but on the other hand, making sure that people's rights to protest were protected as well. Democracy works. And what we saw at City Hall this week is a number of people coming out. Over 120 different delegations came forward. We heard from each one of them that was there, and in essence, kind of received the matter as information, which means we kind of put it on the shelf. I know the intent that came. The intent was sincere. It was a good faith intent. That was the reason for the bylaw. But right now, we're going to put it on hold. Bill C-9 is coming through the federal government, and Bill C-9 that the federal government introduced will address many of the issues and concerns that we attempted to address when bringing forward the bylaw. So we'll be watching Bill C-9.
So watching Bill C-9, and then is this bylaw going to make another appearance? Because when you say it's shelved, you have somebody saying, it's do or die that this doesn't happen. Someone else saying it's important for us to have something in place. What are you going to do moving forward?
I don't see it making another appearance. I think, first of all, we have to watch what the federal government is doing. And I think that, they're looking to address some matters as well. I really believe that obviously people have the right to protest. We have to protect that right. On the other hand, at the same time, I think protests can be done in such a way that other people don't feel intimidated, don't feel threatened by protesters. And that was the case and has been the case in some parts of our city. And that to me is a problem.
Where do you think that's been a problem, where people have felt intimidated, for example?
Well, part of the, members of the Jewish community said very clearly that there have been times in the last couple of years that they have felt intimidated by some protests. That was stated on the floor of council over a couple of days ago, over the course of the day that we heard all the delegations.
So you believe that still something like this bylaw about moving people further back from where people are, for example, worshiping, for example, which is in this might be a solution.
Yeah, Bill C-9. I encourage people to go take a look at Bill C-9. Just put it into your phone and Google it. It's federal legislation that was introduced in April. Yeah. It was introduced after Councillor Duncan brought forward the call for this motion, this bylaw, and it looks even to define hate. Give a criminal code definition for hate.
Why lean on them, though, if you believe in this, and not just say, no, we're still going to go through with this bylaw here?
Any federal legislation that would come into effect, municipal bylaws would have to, fall in line with those anyway. So if we move first in something like this, and again, this bylaw that we were looking to bring in was too broad. It had several things that needed to be adjusted. if we had moved first and the federal government came in with their own federal legislation and the cities didn't line up, then the cities would have been null and void anyways.
So those who are interested in this should really look at C9
Yes.
and see how they feel about it.
Yes.
Let's talk about what happened at the Winnipeg Police Headquarters over the weekend. We had 2 people significantly damage that building. They were in a publicly accessible part of the building. They opened emergency water supply valves. A lot of us saw the video of the water just pouring through. How concerned are you that an act like that can cripple a place that's important like this?
I've asked that question already. I said this is something we need to look at post-incident, is to whether or not our staff or municipal accommodations in accordance, in partnership with the police, can find a way to make that site less vulnerable from something like this happening again. I know the police moved quickly. Our municipal accommodations team moved quickly to address the matter, but for sure we have to take a look and see how this could be prevented in the future.
And so that's something you've asked them to do, to look to make the building more secure overall in the future, like less maybe publicly accessible, or what have you specifically are you thinking about?
First, the request has been, let's have a post-incident review
on this.
How did this happen? Can it be prevented? What can be done so that something like this doesn't happen again in this building or any other city building?
Do you have wider concerns about that building being maybe too accessible in all spaces to the public? Like, is there enough security there?
I think there's plenty of security there. This incident, what didn't happen in the police headquarters, it happened in the tower. Some of the floors of the tower they're not occupied right now. They're not being used. I don't know all the details. Haven't had a chance to go through the details with our CAO and staff, but these are questions that will be asked.
While we're talking police headquarters, obviously the public inquiry on the headquarters is happening now, and the testimony from a former city CAO, Phil Schiegel, this week. Court did rule Schiegel had accepted a bribe from a contractor. As mayor of the city, what have you been doing to ensure a scandal like this never happens again? For people watching, saying this was a CAO we had for a long time, and what's in place to prevent that?
These incidents happened over a decade ago. Since that time, Marcy, the city of Winnipeg has taken several steps to make many changes. There have been 2 independent audits, one on real estate transactions, one on the police headquarters itself. Those audits years ago brought forward many recommendations, and the city has implemented those recommendations to make those changes. We have also introduced, it was a campaign commitment of mine, a chief construction officer, the first individual of their kind in any Canadian municipality, to my knowledge. And the chief construction officer can provide independent advice to council, which means that a CAO can't stop this person from providing independent advice to council on capital projects and capital programs as well. So we've made many changes at the City of Winnipeg to the way we do procurement, to the way the real estate transactions are handled, to prevent something like this from happening again.
I want to ask you, at 7:53, we have the Mayor of the City of Winnipeg, Scott Gillingham, live with us in studio for a monthly interview as we go through a number of issues facing the city. One of them is funding. Property assessments came out. Some people were surprised at some of the increase in their tax assessments. We actually talked to Premier Wab Kinew in his monthly interview about sharing more tax revenue with the city, or the idea of levying a tax on high-income earners to support cities. We have a really short clip of what he had to say.
I'm not crazy about this proposal because cost of living, and I'm not really into raising taxes. We've tried to cut taxes, including the gas tax, income taxes, payroll tax, corporate tax. But when you talk about the funding for the city and other municipalities, I think we've done a lot there.
He actually went on and kind of juxtaposed and said, well, where would the money come from? Do you want us to cut healthcare? So nodding to the budgets that they're working with. What are your thoughts on Premier Kinew's response? It doesn't sound like you're going to get more stable funding anytime soon from this government.
Well, I do acknowledge that we do get consistent funding from the provincial government, and they gave a slight bump in the grants a couple of years ago. So I acknowledge that and appreciate the partnership that the city has with the province of Manitoba. But Marcy, I have been consistent, and mayors prior to me have been consistent in a call for funding that is related to growth. The city of Winnipeg, like all municipalities, we depend upon an antiquated property tax system where we raise the majority of our revenues to fund the services we deliver through property taxes. We've been doing that for for decades and decades. When we're trying to build modern cities, it's that type of revenue is just frankly not enough. It doesn't encourage municipalities of the city to participate in economic development and growth. And so a growth-related share of revenue, like perhaps a portion of the PST, like some, is the case in some other jurisdictions across Canada, really would encourage and incentivize cities, municipalities to participate more fully in economic development and economic activity.
Do you let it be with the Premier, or do you continue to lobby for that and outline your arguments?
It's not a topic of conversation, but the Premier knows where I stand. I know where he stands. We respect one another, I think. I know we do. I will continue to call for this. Here's a prime example. I've had people say to me, the Grey Cup was great. You must have raised so much revenue in the city of Winnipeg from the Grey Cup. Well, here's the numbers. The 2025 Grey Cup, great event, lots of visitors, lots of spending. The province saw about $8.2 million in added tax revenue. The federal government, $5.3 million. The city of Winnipeg, $385,000 through hotel tax. So there's a prime example that the revenues from economic activity go first and foremost to the federal and provincial governments. And that's why, that's one of the reasons municipalities for years have been calling on, calling for a change in the way cities and municipalities are funded.
Just last, obviously, you're getting ready to cheer for Team Canada.
I sure am. I
Yep.
have my gear on today. You've got your jersey here today, which is great.
I was going to say, I'll put it on later. It's the best social prize I ever won, I've been telling people. But I actually want to ask you about Lent. I mean, yesterday we had kind of Ramadan, first full day. People are fasting. With Lent, a lot of people do give something up and they abstain. You're obviously a pastor as well as being mayor. Do you give something up for the Lenten period?
Yes, I have in the past, and this year, actually, I've deleted a few of the social media apps from my phone. So if Winnipeggers and Manitobans see social media activity on my accounts, it's usually my comms team. But the attempt is to do less scrolling, less time on social media, and more time, frankly, in quiet and reflection, and reading a good book or doing something other than being online. So as I said, I've deleted several social media apps from my phone, and certainly will keep it that way.
That's interesting. All right, Mayor, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Go Team Canada.
That is Mayor Scott Gillingham for our monthly interview on CBC. Still ahead after 8 o'clock. I want to build on this. Heather's had it in the news. More than 1,500 weapons were detected using AI weapon scanners at Winnipeg's Health Sciences Centre over an 8-month period last year. Now, that's according to the province. We are going to hear from the Manitoba Nurses Union on this after 8. Right now, Heather is in with headlines.
Good morning. Well, family and friends of an 18-year-old Winnipeg woman are grieving and shaken after hearing she was murdered over the weekend. Winnipeg police say Avante Hartlieb was found dead in a home on Yonge Street Saturday morning. The Manitoba legislative grounds are looking a little different these days. The visible security presence at the entrance is gone. No more concrete barriers. The security officer is also gone. The Justice Minister says it's all part of an evolving approach to securing the legislative grounds. We're going to hear more on that story as well in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
Sorry, Heather, slipped a finger there on a bit of a theme for you.
Oh,
yeah. So Heather will be back with next headlines in the next hour of the show. As we do approach the top of the clock, though, World Report is coming up, latest in national and international news. I can tell you it's -5. We're going to stay there for the day. Highway 20 also remains closed around Dauphin. There's our theme. And we also have some school closures and bus cancellations. Check out cbc.ca/Manitoba for more.
On cue.
I'm Garvey Bailey, in for Tom Power.
Nothing more beautiful than a hockey rink.
Best known for The Kids in the Hall, Dave Foley once thought he was a little too artsy to be a hardcore hockey fan. Not anymore. On his new show, Dave travels across Canada talking with everyday people and a few celebrities about their love of the game.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
The Canadian women's hockey team goes for gold, facing off against Team USA in a heated rivalry that stretches back to the sport's first introduction at the Olympics in 1998. We'll talk about what's at stake and why these teams don't really like each other, coming up on The Current.
This is World Report.
Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The King's brother, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is in police custody. He was arrested this morning on suspicion of misconduct in public office. On the streets of London, people say they're surprised and pleased.
A sign of the world we live in, where power has no responsibility, no ethics.
I thought he'd go into hiding and get away with it.
But hopefully he gets what he deserves. If it's life in jail, then it's life in jail.
Information in the Epstein files led to Andrew's arrest, and it appears police acted without giving the royal family any kind of heads up. My World Report co-host John Northcott joins me in studio. And John, what is happening today?
Marcia, this comes as police search Andrew's home on the grounds of the King's Sandringham estate and his former residence at Windsor Castle. The former prince is in custody on suspicion of misconduct in public office, an offence that carries a maximum penalty of life in prison. There have been allegations Andrew sent trade reports to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in 2010. Andrew served for a decade as the UK's Special Representative for International Trade and Investment, and in that capacity, he would have had access to potentially sensitive British government material that might have proven valuable to others.
John, this story has been unfolding for a while. Give us some of the backstory.
Marcia, Andrew has been under suspicion for years for his alleged treatment of young women and for his relationship with the late sex offender and international wheeler dealer Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew has long denied any wrongdoing. Nonetheless, he was stripped of his titles and royal duties by his brother, the King. With the ongoing release of the Epstein files, there have been increasing pressure on UK authorities to investigate the former prince's links and activities, but this does appear at this stage to be an investigation into the potential release of privileged state information rather than any sexual misconduct.
So there's now reaction to the news of the arrest coming. What are we hearing?
We're hearing from the King, Andrew's older brother, saying that the authorities, quote, have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation, that the law must take its course. We're also hearing from the family of Andrew's alleged victim, the late Virginia Giuffre, saying that the investigation has, quote, lifted our hearts, saying that no one is above the law.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Marcia.
My World Report co-host John Northcott. The United Nations says the attacks in Sudan's Darfur region bear the hallmarks of genocide. It launched a fact-finding mission to investigate the 18-month siege of the city of El Fasher, and it found protected ethnic groups were cut off from food and water. Mona Reshmawi worked on the UN report. She says the rebel rapid support forces targeted non-Arab communities.
We are talking about mass killings. We are talking about 18 months of siege. We are talking about rampant sexual violence of incredible cruelty. All this basically was targeting two specific ethnic groups, particularly the Zaghawas and the Darfur.
She's calling for the international community to protect Sudanese civilians and their rights. Sudan has been gripped by civil war since April 2023. At least 40,000 people have been killed in that time, and aid groups insist the numbers are being underreported. U.S. President Donald Trump is convening his Board of Peace for the first time today in Washington. Trump says the group will lead the way to a rebuilt and peaceful Gaza. But allies, like Canada, who are not involved, are skeptical. And so are Palestinians living in Gaza. The CBC's Cameron McIntosh has more from Jerusalem.
Living under a precarious ceasefire, ask Palestinians in this market near Gaza City about the prospects for U.S. President Donald Trump's Board of Peace. Opinions are split. The destruction of Gaza is because of Trump, says Hazin Abu Marah, blaming Trump for not stopping Israel. While others like Mohammed El-Sari say Trump is the only hope.
We're committed to ensuring Gaza is demilitarized, properly governed, and beautifully rebuilt.
Trump introduced the board last month to set a plan for Gaza. About 20 countries, including regional players, have signed on. The rest of the G7, including Canada, have not. Trump says member states are pledging $5 billion towards reconstruction so far. Indonesia is promising troops for a stabilization force. Palestinian technocrats will manage Gaza day to day.
We're going to be very successful in Gaza.
Expected on today's agenda, rebuilding and policing. Challenges are daunting, including Hamas's refusal to disarm. Back in the market, there's uneasiness. The ceasefire can continue, but the suffering is the same, says Henri Saad, who, like many, fears one occupying force will be replaced by another. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Jerusalem.
The federal government is announcing new money to support Inuit children and families and improve food security. It includes $115 million for the Inuit Child First Initiative. That helps families access essential health, social, and educational services. Ottawa will also spend $27 million over the next 5 years to eliminate tuberculosis. And it's investing $30 million into the Nutrition North subsidy. That money helps ship food and essential items to isolated northern communities. In BC, a Supreme Court justice is hitting the brakes on a multi-million-dollar settlement involving WestJet. The deal was supposed to end a class action lawsuit over the airline's anti-harassment policies, but the judge says flight attendants weren't given enough time to look at the fine print. As Lindsay Duncombe reports, both sides head back to court today.
It was a little vindicating.
Former flight attendant April Harkness came to BC Supreme Court Wednesday prepared to object to a proposed $4.5 million settlement with her former employer WestJet Airlines. But the hearing didn't get that far. Instead, Justice Jacqueline Hughes raised key questions about language, procedure, and timing. Questions lead plaintiff Mandalena Lewis says she raised with her lawyers before the agreement was reached.
I'm glad that this judge read between the lines quite quickly and realized that that the due process hasn't been served here.
This legal fight has been going on for close to a decade. Lewis alleges WestJet didn't support her after she says she was sexually assaulted by a pilot on a layover in 2010. The class action lawsuit doesn't deal with those allegations. Instead, it argues WestJet breached its contract with flight attendants by failing to implement and maintain an anti-harassment program. WestJet denies the allegations, and they have not been proven in court. There are close to 3,500 flight attendants in the class. They worked for the airline between 2014 and 2021. Class members were given 3 days to review the settlement. Justice Hughes called that unorthodox and ordered the lawyers to extend the period an additional 30 days. She asked lawyers to reconsider language on WestJet's release of liability and its promised internal review of policy. Lawyers for WestJet and the plaintiff declined our interview requests. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
A new climate science report has a warning for coffee drinkers. Over the past 5 years, most of the world's coffee-producing regions have experienced almost 2 months of additional extreme heat. Anand Ram has more on what that means for the plant and the people who rely on it.
It takes about 12 minutes for
Chalo Fernandez knows every careful step, from bean to cup. His family has been farming coffee in Colombia for more than 150 years.
My grandfather used to look at the mountains and say, oh, it's going to rain.
But it's all become more unpredictable. From intense rain to extreme heat, he's seen the climate stress up close.
It was a huge drought that we see our trees basically dying from the heat.
A new report from the U.S.-based nonprofit Climate Central crunched temperature data. For the world's major coffee-producing countries, the last 5 years have seen, on average, 57 extra days of extreme heat because of climate change. And that's a problem for plants when it comes to fighting infection. Lily Peck is an evolutionary biologist at UCLA.
You could have more susceptible plant and there's higher kind of virulence pathogen. So that can kind of act as a multiplier effect.
Very excited to pick these beans, but that's not going to happen.
Fernandez showed us whole trees of unripened berries from his southwestern Colombian farm last year. Climate shocks like this, some farmers can adjust to, but not forever.
You can get the heat, as you say, 1 year, 2 years. The third year, you start thinking to disappear. You start pushing your kids to get out of this industry.
Showing the cost of climate change driven by humans burning fossil fuels isn't a future threat. It's happening now. Anand Ram, CBC News, Pickering, Ontario.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. For live updates on our top story, the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. Pretty warm this morning, -5, and we'll stay there for the day in Winnipeg. We do still have a snowfall warning, though, this affecting the west and up around Selkirk and certainly through Riding Mountain. Boissevain, though, getting the biggest dump of snow yesterday in the storm system. So we have school closures, if you want to check them out, and bus cancellations. You probably already know by now at 10 after 8, but please go to our website for the full list at cbc.ca/Manitoba. In addition, this half hour on CBC, more than 1,500 weapons were detected at Winnipeg's Health Sciences Centre using AI scanners. And over 300 of those were found at the Children's Emergency Department. The president of the Manitoba Nurses Union is concerned about this, and we're going to talk to her. Stay with us. First, Heather Wells has other news headlines. Good morning once again.
Good morning. Well, the boyfriend of an 18-year-old woman murdered over the weekend says he is angry and heartbroken. Winnipeg police say Avante Hartlieb was found dead in a home on Yonge Street Saturday morning. A 14-year-old boy has been charged with criminal negligence causing death and second-degree murder. Hartlieb's close friends gathered at a sacred fire yesterday in her honor. Manitoba's first French private school is set to open in September. The institute is going to be part of an international network of French schools. The founder, Camille Fakiri, says the school's French curriculum is similar to what is taught in Manitoba, with one big difference. Courses taught in grade 4 immersion in Manitoba, he says, are similar to what students in France learn in grades 2 or 3. So he says they're advanced by a couple of years in France. We'll hear more on that coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
All right, merci. Thanks, Seth.
Thank you.
Abby, the forecast.
Yeah, we're waking up to that challenging travel commute in a bunch of regions in the Westman, Interlake, and even Parkland region, where some regions already saw about 25 centimeters of snow come down in that area. Though that should be tapering off as we get into the day. But for today, you're still going to deal with a bunch of snow coming down and slow commute. For Winnipeg right now, yes, the warning is ended. We might still see snow on and off. We're looking at about temperatures just hovering around -6, -7 all day, and we should see some breezy conditions. We'll see temperatures around -11 tonight. Across the south, Brandon sitting at -11 at this time, and Dauphin sitting at -12. Though the snow accumulation is a concern there, you're still expecting additional 2 to 5 centimeters coming your way. And up north, it's freezing. It feels like -42 in Churchill.
Wow, good reminder. Hey, all right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk.
Yeah, so far the only issue on the highways this morning has been on Highway 20 between Dauphin and Winnipeg-Osis. That highway is closed because of poor conditions. That is the only highway closed in the province right now, but there are still some partly covered conditions, particularly in southwestern Manitoba today. So just careful if you're hitting the highways. Here in the city, there was an issue at Burroughs and Keewatin. The lights were flashing red after a light standard was knocked down, but that now has been fixed. So it should be smooth sailing through Burroughs and Keewatin. If you do see anything else though going on out there, if you're walking, biking, driving, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, the Manitoba Nurses Union says it was shocked at the number of weapons being detected at HSC. More than 1,500 weapons identified using new AI tech at the doors of Winnipeg's Health Sciences Centre. So this happened over an 8-month period in 2025 through weapon detection scanners, as I mentioned. The report that talks about this found that 1,546 weapons were detected, 332 discovered at Children's Hospital Emergency Department. These numbers were revealed through a Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act that was request made by Radio-Canada. Peter Evans is the CEO of Extract One Technologies. That's the company that is overseeing the new detection scanners at HSC.
So the sensors are looking for the characteristics of the items that are going through. The AI software is matching that to our known weapons. Items like this knife here, for example, right? Or this box cutter here is another example. We can discern those items, things that you don't want in a hospital, and we can let people who just have a cell phone or a watch or wallet walk on through.
So that was Extract One Technology CEO Peter Evans talking about how the technology works. The detection scanners were put in place after concerns were raised about violence in Winnipeg hospitals. The province did not tell us what type of weapons specifically were detected in this report or how many may have been items like tools or nail files. Darlene Jackson is head of the Manitoba Nurses Union, and she's with us via Zoom. Hi there.
Hi there.
So your reaction to this?
I'm not surprised, Marcy. Nurses in the ERs in this city have been telling me for a very long time that weapons are coming in. They're confiscating weapons prior to the AI scanners on a regular basis. It's actually frightening to see some of those weapons that have come in, and that staff and other individuals are at risk with someone carrying those weapons. So I'm not surprised that those have been confiscated.
Tell me a little bit about what you understand about this in terms of what types of weapons that nurses have been telling you they're seeing in Manitoba hospitals over the years.
Well, they're seeing everything from guns to knives, etc., machetes, things like that. But they're also seeing a lot of almost homemade weapons where a screwdriver has been sharpened so it could be utilized to stab someone. Lots and lots of knives and other weapons.
I want to ask about the statistic that came out about the Children's Emergency Department. The report saying 332 of the weapons detected there. What are your thoughts on that specifically?
Well, I think it's fairly frightening that those type of weapons are coming into a Children's Emergency Department. That is frightening. Although I have heard from nurses in the ER department that there is definitely an increase in weapons and an increase in violence towards staff in that facility. So that alone is not surprising. However, it is it's worrying that those things are coming into a children's hospital.
Are you aware of specifically what type of weapons were found? As we mentioned, we have had some information from the province, obviously, through our FIPA report, but we weren't told specifics about the types or how many might have been, as I mentioned, things like tools or nail files.
No, I was not made aware of that, but I can imagine that, the trend is a lot of knives are coming in. There are guns coming in. I know that nurses at the facility and at HSC Adult Emergency have told me that people are coming in with machetes down the leg of their pants, and they're only been discovered when the patient has to be undressed for treatment or etc. If they come in unconscious, they'll often find something down the leg of their pants or in their waistband.
So what happens when a weapon is found in a hospital? Is it seized? What is happening?
Well, I think what happens is now there's amnesty lockers at Health Sciences Centre, and also St. B has just installed them. So that gives individuals an opportunity to put their weapons in an amnesty locker and retrieve them when they leave the facility. However, if they choose not to do that, then when they go through the AI scanner, I believe those weapons are seized.
What are your thoughts on the AI technology overall? Is it something that would help hospitals, for example, get off the gray list to make staff feel safer, where you felt the need to gray list hospitals due to a threat of violence?
I certainly think AI scanners would be helpful with that, but there are a myriad of safety issues that hospitals need to address in order to lift gray listing. So, we're in the process with Health Sciences Centre right now of trying to hammer out some details on having a memo of understanding or a letter of understanding that I understand you can't do everything right now, but nurses are worried that promises will be made that won't be fulfilled, or that we will see once the gray listing is lifted, we'll start to see things been taken away, like AI scanners been moved out, ISO has been moved out. The police at HSC Emergency been taken away. So what we're looking for is a guarantee in written that those things are going to remain for the long term, and that any promises that are made must have a date on them. We need to know a timeline of when they're going to be done.
And just last, what are you looking for over at St. Boniface?
Well, I think we're looking at very similar things at St. Boniface as we are at Thompson and HSC when it comes to safety. We're looking for AI scanners, we're looking for ISOs, we're looking for a lockdown of entrances, some surveillance in their tunnel, etc. But St. Boniface, we've also pulled in, because of talking to nurses, we've also pulled in a lot of patient safety issues, and nurse-patient ratios have been pulled into St. Boniface because speaking to nurses in the ER, it's impossible to ensure patient safety when you're dealing with 70 or 80 individuals in your department, up to 115 on days when your apartment only holds 61 patients.
Do you have a date yet, just as a last question here, for the grey listing vote on St. B?
The grey listing vote actually begins this morning at 8 o'clock and finishes tomorrow at noon. And we're just finishing up our webinars and our question and answer periods with members today.
All right. Thank you for your time, Darlene Jackson.
Thank you very much.
Darlene Jackson is president of the Manitoba Nurses Union. Now, the province is expected to release more information at a news conference later this morning about the weapons issues we were talking about, the numbers. In a statement to Radio-Canada, Manitoba's Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera said in part, quote, while any weapon appearing in a hospital setting is concerning, these numbers also demonstrate that proactive safety measures are working, identifying risks earlier and helping protect patients and frontline staff. The introduction of AI-enabled weapons detection technology is part of a broader strategy that includes expanding institutional safety officers, strengthening monitored access points, improving emergency communication tools, and introducing practical measures like amnesty lockers that were mentioned there in our interview that reduce risk while maintaining respectful and welcoming care environments, end quote. If you want to read more about the story, you can go to our website, and certainly we'll report on the grey list vote on St. B that is set to begin this morning. You're listening to CBC.ca, to Radio Canada. You can go online to CBC.ca to read more. You're listening to Information Radio here. I'm rushing along, you can tell. That's because I'm trying to slide some music in before Olympic Report, which is coming up at 8:25. I'll just stop talking now. Here's Tate McRae in Sports Car. This tune is nominated for Single of the Year at the upcoming Juno Awards next month. Tate McRae in Sports Car. Speaking of sports, coming up, we have Olympic update and report for you. Just want to say thank you to the folks that put the show together today. Jim Agapita, Sierra Sanders, Heather Wells, Megan Ketchison, and Cameron McLean. Corey Funk, Abby Adiemi, Darren Marash, and our producers, Nellie Gonzalez and Leif Larson. Well, I've made a wardrobe change. If you're watching on YouTube, put on my jersey. It's not sports cars I'm cheering for. It's sports teams. Team Canada, don't you know? And especially the women. Today, going for gold against the United States. They're in tough. They lost 5-0 last time they faced them in this tournament. But today, it's all for the top medals in Milan. So we'll see how they do. And you can hear that right here on CBC at noon. Right now, though, Olympic update.
Good morning, I'm Scott Regehr with your Olympic Games report.
Rebound, she scores! Canada's captain does it again!
Hockey is the headliner today. Marie-Philippe Poulin and Team Canada set to play the U.S. for gold. They are the same two combatants we've seen at every Olympic Games except one, and the rivalry has seldom been so heated. It's also rarely looked like such a mismatch. The Americans trounced Canada earlier at these games 5-0. And odds makers? Well, they're giving the U.S. a more than 80% chance of winning today. So yes, to use a hockey cliche, the Canadians' backs are against the wall, and they're going to need their goalie Anne-Renee Desbiens to be a wall to come out on top.
We don't need to play our best game individually. We all need to just be the average us all at the same time, and that's going to be good enough. Sometimes it's some mistakes younger players make. You want it all to be about you, and you think you have to play the best game that you ever in your career when you forget that it's the average you that got you where you are. So all we need is the average us, so all show up at the same time, and it should be a pretty good game.
Anne-Renee Desbiens, who was in goal for Canada when they won gold at the last games in Beijing. CBC Radio will begin coverage of this morning's gold medal final at 10 a.m. Pacific. Meanwhile, just one more sleep before Canada's men's team faces Finland in the semifinals. The big talking point ahead of that game is the health of Sidney Crosby. Crosby left yesterday's quarterfinal against Czechia early with a lower body injury. Canada's coach, Prince George native John Cooper, shared this update.
There's a chance. I'm not ruling out anything. We got the best of the best looking after him. Nobody's replacing Sidney Crosby. I mean, he's one of one. So, what we have to do as a group, though, that's why we have depth. And that's why you have to, pick the players when you're putting this team together, that in case somebody like Sid goes down, who can step in, and we feel like we have that. And
Cooper says Montreal Canadiens captain Nick Suzuki is the player most likely to play more if Crosby misses out. Suzuki was excellent against the Finns, scoring the late goal that sent things to overtime.
Final stone here. Wow. Canada dodges a major bullet here. Steal and a 2-0 lead.
Big curling contest going on right now. Team Canada facing South Korea with a spot in the semifinals on the line. It is a must-win encounter for Rachel Homan, and things are pretty close at the moment. The Koreans lead 3-2. They are in the fourth end. Meanwhile, in men's curling, Norway and semis in a few hours' time. Earlier today, the Norwegians topped the Canadians in the final preliminary round game for both. Covering the action has been CBC Olympic curling commentator Bruce Rainey, who joins me now. Bruce, how concerned should we be for Brad Jacobs' rink after that loss to the Norwegians?
A little bit, but not very. I think Canada played Tyler Tardy, who's their alternate today, in place of Ben Hebert at lead. Ben is 42. He's the hardest working sweeper on the team, very powerful guy. The plan all along was, if you have the playoff spot secured, give Ben a rest before the semifinals. So Canada will come back later today against Norway, same matchup, but with Ben Hebert in the lineup. This is a great opportunity for Canada to win a semifinal and play for a gold here.
A great opportunity all around, and not just because they're facing Norway, but because of the other semifinal.
Well, the other semi is the top two teams in the world, Great Britain and Switzerland. Switzerland hasn't lost a game here. They've looked like a runaway train. Great Britain coming in was the heavy favorite to win gold. So you'll have those two teams going hard against each other in one semi, Canada against Norway in the other. Whatever it turns out to be, gold and bronze are going to be special games here.
And just be clear, with Canada losing this game against Norwegians this morning, you're not concerned about momentum for the Jacobs rink?
No, especially because Canada played for them a lousy first half, but a really strong second half. They built momentum as the game went along. I think Brad Jacobs will have these guys ready. He's that intense a leader. They will come into this game ready to throw their best rocks of the week, no question.
Thanks, Bruce.
My pleasure.
CBC Olympic curling commentator Bruce Rainey. That semifinal starts at 10:05 Pacific time this morning. So curling and hockey fans in the country, you're going to have a viewing decision to make.
Go to the top. Right.
Big day on the Oval as well, although not so much for Canada. Calgary's Daniel Hall and Quebec's David Leroux will be long shots for long track medals. The same can't be said for American Jordan Stolz, who goes for his third gold of these games already. That's in the 1,500 meters. And that is your Olympic Winter Games report. I'm Scott Regier.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. It's -6 right now. Periods of light snow this morning and then a high this afternoon, not far from where we are right now, of -5. More than 1,500 weapons were detected by new AI-powered scanners at the Health Sciences Centre in Winnipeg over an 8-month period last year. More than 20% of those weapons were at the entrance to the Children's Hospital. That is according to new data from Shared Health obtained by Radio-Canada through a Freedom of Information request. The president of the Manitoba Nurses Union, Darlene Jackson, says it's becoming more common for nurses to see weapons at children's emergency.
I am not surprised at the number that have been caught with the AI weapons detectors at adult emergency. However, it is worrying that they've caught well over 300 weapons going into children's emergency. That's very worrying.
Radio-Canada asked Shared Health to specify the nature of the weapons captured in its data, but has not received an immediate response. The boyfriend of an 18-year-old woman murdered over the weekend says he is angry and heartbroken. Winnipeg police say Avanti Hartlieb was found dead in a home on Yonge Street Saturday morning. A 14-year-old boy has been charged with second-degree murder and criminal negligence causing death. Hartlieb's close friends gathered at a sacred fire in her honor yesterday. Ethan Tillingbell says he met Hartlieb a few years ago. He says they shared dreams of exploring the world, going to college, and having their own house.
Amy was strong and very kind, and she was always there for people. She never would leave somebody, especially if they were hurting.
Family and friends say Hartlieb had been in CFS care most of her life and had bounced around between foster homes and group homes. The accused boy, who cannot be named under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, remains in custody. Well, a developing story this morning, King Charles says he is deeply concerned over the arrest of his brother, but says the law must take its course. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been arrested by British police on suspicion of misconduct in public office. It follows scrutiny over the former prince's close relationship with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And on the streets of London today?
Honestly, nothing's going to happen to him, really, if you think about it. You know, he's fully protected by his family, but hopefully he gets what he deserves.
Andrew arrested on what is his 66th birthday. You can hear the latest on this story coming up throughout the day, but we'll have the very latest for you at 9 o'clock. The Manitoba legislature grounds are looking a little different these days. The Justice Minister says it's part of an evolving approach to securing the property. CBC's Ian Fraze reports.
The legislature boosted security during the pandemic, but now a few of those measures are gone. The main entrance to the grounds now clear of concrete barriers and staff checking vehicles. Also gone, the concrete barricades at the bottom of the steps to the building, which were implemented after a man drove a truck onto the legislature steps in 2021. Justice Minister Matt Wiebe not giving a reason for the recent change, but says security will be maintained through a mix of flexible and responsible measures. They could include restoring a main entrance checkpoint if needed. Other safety measures introduced in the past years remain. If you're visiting, expect to go through a metal detector and swap your photo ID for a pass. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A fully French private school is opening its doors in Winnipeg for the first time next fall. The new school is called Lycée and is part of an international network of schools. Founder Camille Ferricki says the international French curriculum is similar to Manitoba's immersion curriculum. He says the network is made up of roughly 550 schools around the world.
We already have some French schools in Canada. We have 9 of them. And there was no French school between Calgary and Toronto. So when we arrived here, we decided that it was probably the time for us to create our own school and give the best for our students.
Fakiri says the school will offer classes from kindergarten to grade 6 at a cost of $10,000 to $12,000 a student. Well, was your shovel ready? Did you get to use it? Depends where in Manitoba you were. Winnipeg was spared the worst of this week's big snowstorm that hit the prairies over the last 2 days. Environment and Climate Change Canada says Winnipeg only had 2 to 3 centimeters. Portage la Prairie and Dauphin had 15. Morden measuring 18. Brandon had 8. But most of the snow fell on Boissevain, shoveling out from under 25 centimeters of fresh snow. Canadian hockey fans are gearing up for that big game today. The Olympic women's team plays for gold against the United States. It all gets going at noon Central Time. You can watch it on CBC Television and on CBC Gem, but you can hear all the action right here on CBC Radio 1, and that starts at 12 o'clock. You can find more Manitoba news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
It was so distracting in the newsroom yesterday when the men were playing.
Right.
Yeah, so today's going to be similar, I think. All right, thank you, Heather.
Thank you. Exciting.
Okay, let's have a last look at the commute, Corey.
Highway 20 between Dauphin and Winnipeg is now open. So all highways in Manitoba are open now, but though might be partly covered. So careful, might be some slippery spots for you.
Thanks, Corey.
No problem.
Abby.
Yeah, the snowfall warnings still remains in effect for the Westman region, the Parkland, and the Interlake region. We're looking at additional 2 to 5 centimeters of snow coming. It's going to impact travel due to the accumulation on the road, so take it easy. We're seeing temperatures warming up to about -8 across most of the regions, while Winnipeg, we're going to hover around -7 and get to almost -5 later today.
Okay, thanks very much, Abby.
Thank you.
Thanks to our on-air team here, as well as our off-air morning live team for being here each and every morning. Tomorrow morning, I'm actually not going to be here. So huge thanks to Corey Funk, who's filling in for me tomorrow. Corey is also hosting Radio Noon tomorrow, so you can catch him all day long. Thank you, Corey. And take care, be well, Manitoba. Remember, we're live at the Forks next Wednesday. We are looking for you if you're a winter commuter. We're going to do something fun. We're trying to get Corey up and down the river trail. So maybe you can meet him along the way and talk to him about winter commuting. But you need to tell us. So radio 893 at cbc.ca. Write us a note. Take care. Go Canada. The Current's coming up next.